Maybe because, here we had our beloved Reverend Bill saying goodbye to us yesterday with his successor, Jen Barth. And maybe it was karma. Maybe it was the squared circle gods that said, how dare you give Jonathan Savage the Heisman? So what, this week we've had like two Savages, if that. Let's roll out the red carpet. Oh, here he is now, getting out of his Bentley. Jonathan Savage joins us now from Fox News Radio, live from London with Kevin Miller here in our beloved smoke-filled Treasure Valley. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, yesterday I just pulled up to the car park. I was just unclipping my seatbelt, just about to lift up my coffee cup out of the holder when I got the message saying that I was just to turn around, get back on the freeway, and head back to London. It was disappointing, but I know how these things go. I have, in my day, cancelled many a guest, so I don't take it personally.
Well, Reverend Bill has served us for over 24 years. So in other times, I would have had you interview Reverend Bill and his successor, Jen Barth. However, I don't know about you. Perhaps you don't have the passion. Perhaps you're more like a Wheeler Yuta. Maybe you're Danny Garcia compared to my Kenny Omega, my Will Ospreay. Oh, that would hurt for you. But I had a lot of trouble keeping my composure yesterday because this gentleman has done so much. Unlike some people that come in and out of our lives, he always had my back. He never turned a blind eye when I went to tag. So it was a very challenging day for me yesterday.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yes.
Well, here we are.
I could hear the empathy in your voice.
No, I am empathy personified. I'm famous for it.
Well, we have a lot to discuss here today, young man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. Big report out.
Hold on. See, this is, once again, this is how Jonathan Savage, I can just literally drop the ball, and he's the consummate professional. He just goes into the mode. So I apologize for giving a little behind-the-scenes vibe there on 580 KIDO. So I'm sorry, back to you.
Okay, yeah, big report out. This is a report into anti-Semitism around the world, and it turns out that 2025 was the deadliest year for Jews outside Israel in more than 3 decades. A big reason for that was what happened just during Hanukkah last December in Sydney, Australia, when Islamist gunmen opened fire on a Hanukkah celebration, killing 15 people, including a 10-year-old girl. But there were killings elsewhere, including in the United Kingdom, in the United States, outside the Jewish Museum in Washington and Boulder, Colorado. And the report also notes how hate crimes are still incredibly high compared to where they were before the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza. This is, according to Jewish organizations, the new normal.
Yeah, you see that, and you see a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of anti-Semitism, primarily coming about in this country from the left and the right. Troubling times. The world I grew up in, people were very pro the Jewish state, pro-Israel, but today, not so much, it appears.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important and interesting aspect of it. That for a lot of people, there's a political speech, freedom of speech issue here. People who are being accused of stoking anti-Semitism, such as the mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani. He says that he has no tolerance for anti-Semitism, and he distinguishes his criticism of the Israeli state from the hatred that some people have towards the Jewish people. He says you have to be able to criticize the government. Don't confuse it with hating Jewish people. But I think there is an overlap among many people out there who criticize the Israeli government, but do also hold the Jewish community in disregard. And in terms of where this is coming from, while there were 17 anti-Semitic incidents every day in the United States last year, very high numbers, the country with the highest rate is Germany, 70 incidents per 1,000 members of the Jewish population in 2025. And this is coming from all directions. There were 800 cases from right-wing extremism, 500 cases from left-wing extremism, and 166 Islamist-linked cases. And Germany, obviously a very sensitive location for anti-Semitism, Germany responsible under the Nazis for the deaths of 6 million people in the Holocaust.
No, again, a very troubling trend that is happening here. Jonathan Savage, the last Savage of the week. Once again, how much time do we have on the clock here?
We got 5 minutes. 5 whole minutes.
5 whole minutes. I have to tell you, I believe that I'm converting, leaving the WWE and going to the Plumbers Union, and we love the Plumbers here on 580 KIDO, known as AEW. An incredible show last night. I don't know if you saw it, but it's becoming believable, as weird as it is for me to say it.
Are you really sensing the Ospreay Omega rivalry building just in time? Are you sensing there's a real needle there that's gonna make it a little bit special when they meet at Wembley Stadium?
Well, the rumor is that Kenny Omega will be the heel along with the Young Bucks, and I think it's gonna. I think it's actually gonna help ticket sales. I am not a fan of MJF. He's out injured again. And when you talk as much as he does, when you say as much, and you could see his body breaking down, he's a little guy. And he's not little durable like the Young Bucks. He's a little guy. And as a fellow little guy, I've always admired the Chris Benoit's professionally on how durable they can be, or Chris Jericho. But the MJF guy, he's just not believable anymore. Kenny Omega coming back, much more depth, detailed. Will Ospreay, it seems to have found his new voice now. And the thing about AEW is, you pay the $50, but they give you like 5.5 hours of action, even if some of it's silly. But even the the Commander Moxley match that went way too long, or the triples match last night was good. And what's her name? Mercedes Moné against Willow. It's going to be good. I mean, they've sold it, where the WWE, it's more, I hate to say it, just recycled promos, from the Best of the Rock back in the day.
Yeah, I'm really sad to be missing All In, because I'm going to be out of the country. But in terms of the main feud, Will Ospreay ideally winning the title in Wembley Stadium, absolutely iconic venue in the United Kingdom, becoming world champion for the first time. And Kenny Omega, you know what? You can make Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks temporary heels. You can do that, and you can turn them back very swiftly without it making no sense at all. Because a championship, a world championship, should do something to you psychologically. If you're competing for it, and if we're trying to create a sort of a feeling of realness here, it's the sort of thing that should make you reach into depths that you had never reached into before, or not for a long time. Make you do things that don't fit in with your natural personality. So getting Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks to push the envelope in terms of fairness, to do what they can to keep it. Everyone can understand that, and you can understand what they're doing, but you can still cheer on Will Ospreay against them.
Well, and the big question is, does Will Ospreay's wife win the tag titles with the other lady, since they're from, I guess, you'll correct me where they're from. They're not from America.
No. Well, these are the brawling
babes. Yes.
Birds, the brawling birds. Alex Windsor, Jamie Hayter. They're English. I'm pretty sure. Jamie Hayter is from. I'm just looking up where Jamie Hayter is from, somewhere in England. But yeah, look, I think that what they might do, they might lose, because that sort of feeling, let's say all the British competitors, all the British wrestlers lose in the undercard, it makes Will Ospreay winning the main event all the more cathartic, I suppose.
Yes, if you haven't seen it from last night, ouch, you'll definitely enjoy the show. So that and SummerSlam, any thoughts on SummerSlam before you have to go? I know we're close.
I was just talking to someone who is a producer at another station who's heading out to SummerSlam to work as a journalist there. Look, SummerSlam, it's too big. 2 nights is too big. You could cut half the matches out of the show, and you'd have one of the most exciting wrestling shows of the year from WWE. Baron Corbin is back in the promotion. Why? It's not necessary. I don't need to see Nick Aldis wrestle. Gunther could have much better matches against better people. I don't need LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys in a 6-man tag. I don't need to see the Bellas anymore, unfortunately. So, I think there's a sort of 2-night show where you can watch Monday, Tuesday next week, skipping through the matches you don't want to see, and you'll enjoy it much more than watching it live.
All right, real quick, Rollins versus Reigns, who wins?
I think Reigns wins. Yeah, I think Reigns beats Rollins.
Which is a nothing story then. Then it's Cody versus Punk?
I would say Punk. I'd say no main title changes this year. Punk should keep it. Mm-hmm.
We will hold you to that Monday. I know you've got to go to Poughkeepsie. Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care.
Take care. There you have it, Jonathan Savage. And, you always can count on Jonathan Savage joining us. And again, we love to share people as people. And so we'll get to Fauci and the Fifth Amendment. We'll get to the bad air. But here you have Jonathan Savage, very passionate about professional wrestling. And there's going to be a big show in Wembley, which is, where he works, and he'll be out of the country. But it's always, whether you work at the Shakespeare Festival, whether you work wherever, passion. We love passion. We don't support passion enough. One person who is very passionate about health is our great friend, Dr. Eric Lyle at Peak Health, Idaho. And you go, Kevin Miller, you've lost all this weight. Have you regressed? No, I haven't regressed. We'll be going in on Tuesday. And you're going to go, well, Kevin Miller, why should I care about your health? You're right. You shouldn't. But if you've lived, unfortunately, the type of life that I've lived, no, I didn't do the drugs. I didn't drink. But I ate too much, didn't exercise enough, had some health conditions, as we've talked about, whether it's our great friend Jeremy Fricks, whether it's our great friend Dr. Noonan, it's our friend Dr. Lyle. We have a lot of friends, and I really didn't have a choice because I needed to lose weight. And there are many ways to lose weight. Me, I've embraced the grind. I want to work on my VO2 max. What's that? It's one of the great determining factors of your longevity. Obviously, you think to yourself, well, Kevin, I am not a weightlifter. I don't like to go to the gym and hang with the boys. You don't have to, because with Peak Personalized Healthcare, you have our man Sean. By the way, Sean he really cares about you. And, sometimes putting the equipment on, like when I did my basal metabolic rate breathing test, and you're going to go, Kevin, what the heck is that? It sounds intimidating. No, you sit there and you watch Netflix and you breathe through a tube. But for me, that's highly claustrophobic. It was traumatic. Sean got me through that. We take a look at the fat on the outside. What about the inside? They have a DEXA body scan, which shows you how much fat is around your organs, which you don't want any fat around your organs. Beverly, who helps with nutrition, took my blood, and I'm a bad poke. No problem getting my blood, and the amount of tests that's done to say, look, you need to do this, proactive, preventative, longevity, a lot of figures. They break it down. It's the gold standard in longevity medicine. Give them a call today, 683-7325, and they can get you on the right path. There's no judgment. They measure, they take a look at the data, they optimize, they come up with a plan. Like Sean has helped cardiac patients with rehab. That's one of his specialties. So when I go see him Tuesday, I'm going to say, hey, I'm doing these weightlifting things, but can you give me something that will, help my heart? Because, when you have the low heart rate, you need to get that heart rate going, or exercise specifics to really help. They do that for everyone. Advanced testing and treatments, exclusive longevity assessments. You'll like them. They're great. PeakHealthIdaho.com. That's the website. Now, if you go Peak Health Idaho, or there's a lot of fitness guys, but you want to look for PeakHealthIdaho.com, and you're going to see Dr. Lyle with his wonderful DEXA lean mass. Thank you, Dr. Lyle. But it's something to strive for. And he's got this APQP, and I know Jeremy knows what this is, who's listening right now, but I don't. Anyway, 683-7325, 683-7325. Now, they're located right next to Topgolf. So if you're coming in from Napa or Caldwell or wherever, it's going to be okay because it's convenient. You get off the exit. You got to take you take that, the left at not at the 10 mile, the Eagle Road, and then you get on Overland, take that and the new wonderful Tommy facility, and there you are. Okay, I think I've gotten the frogs out of my throat. We are going to continue to talk about medicine. Wait till you hear what this guy on CNN said, that people asking Dr. Fauci legitimate questions, he says it's an assault on science and scientists. What? Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. But breaking down perjury, Fauci, immunity, so many things to discuss. By the way, and again, we're not trying to get our 500 downloads back from the city of Seattle, but you go back to the fallout of the Seattle Food Festival shootout, kills 3, injuring a toddler. And apparently now the police chief that had to be restrained has been fired, allegedly. We'll take a look at that coming up. And why does that matter here? Well, we've had shootings in Boise, we've had shootings in Napa, but thankfully our elected leaders don't try to hijack stories like apparently what happened in Seattle, where they didn't tell anybody till either 5 or 12 hours after the shootings. And this guy was in Dallas. His family lives in Chicago. And when you have to be physically restrained from assaulting a reporter, or at the very least getting in his face, it's time for you to go. We had a situation in Boise that was ignored, in my observations, in my opinion, by the current mayor. And, people say, Kevin Miller, you hold a grudge. No, I don't hold a grudge. But Kevin Miller is not capable of wearing a badge. Kevin Miller has a lot of respect for responsible people. For whether you're successful, not successful, responsible people. And when I see responsible people mismanaged, abused, maligned by the person elected to run them. Now, I know she makes wonderful social media videos, but we didn't elect Mayor McClain to do that. We elected her to listen. Is she really listening to anybody anymore? And she's always welcome. Look, she can. Any one of those jabronis can come on this program. That's why we keep it open. Well, can you fit me in? Yeah, no problem. But in the end, what's that going to accomplish? Like I said, we appreciate that, but we don't appreciate incompetency. And in Seattle, we're going to see more and more people moving to Boise and to Meridian from Seattle, because why would you put up with that stuff? The war, it's still going on, apparently now, and we'll get into this. We will get into this, but no wonder the Iranians are attacking us. We've got stories that we're running out of missiles. We've got a new opinion poll. People are trying to deny the president the ability to take down the bad guys. So we'll get into that. I digress. Let me pay off this tease. Last night, and I'm debating with David Bozell of the Media Research Center, even as we're rolling on this program. Last night on the CNN show, Abby Phillips interrupts conservatives. Dr. Ratson defended Dr. Fauci. And here you have the libs that drank the Fauci wine, that love the Fauci. He's an 85-year-old Fauci. Leave him well. He seems pretty good to me compared to Joe Biden. And by the way, according to Josh Hawley, Senator Hawley, on Morning Wire this morning, the guy made millions as a government employee. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? But apparently, we're attacking Fauci for asking him legitimate questions. Fauci, what did you do with the Chinese, and when did you do it with the Chinese?
So, Dr. Ratson, obviously there are a lot of questions about COVID-19. Did you find any of this enlightening, questions or lack of answers?
Well, look, in reality, right, public service and public servants should be respected. Everyone who was in that hearing and meeting room. But what's happened is this is an assault on science and scientists. And unfortunately, Dr. Fauci is in that seat. 38 years of service to the country, one of the best known scientist for infectious disease, unfortunately has taken a lot of heat for probably a lot of, shall we say, issues that were not fully his. He didn't make all the decisions that drove the COVID pandemic, but you are right that he is one of the most respected scientists and should be respected in that same sort of way. Today, we certainly didn't learn anything from the way the hearing was held.
So,
Yes, we should be respectful of the Fauci, the poke, the jab. You had a couple people try to be nice to Fauci, to try to, hey, come on, Fauci, be a good little Fauci, come out and play. Fauci decided not to come out and play. Senator Rick Scott of Florida, that should be the Senate Majority Leader, said, hey, Fauci, what's up with you in China?
Did you personally receive any royalty payments connected to COVID-related intellectual property?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Given that NIH receives royalty payments from certain pharmaceutical companies, why would any American believe these financial ties did not influence decisions about which treatments were promoted or restricted?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Why doesn't NIAID publicly disclose these payments?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Did you partner with Bill Gates on global health initiatives or vaccines?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
How much did Bill Gates entities provide in funding to NIAID collectively since 2005?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
To your knowledge, did Bill Gates partner with China on sensitive research?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Specifically, dual-use research such as countermeasures or gain of function?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Do you know if Bill Gates' entities partnered with U.S. government classified programs?
On the advice of counsel, I
think Bill Gates should be next. Bill Gates should be next. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if we actually had someone hold Dr. Fauci accountable? Not just John Fetterman, who was wearing a suit yesterday. Fetterman in a suit. But here we have this guy. Hey, did you partner with China? Did you make a ton of money? Did you do this sort of thing? And what about getting it wrong? Why not admit to it? Why not admit to it? That's really what we need to think about. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Much more on the fallout of Fauci, and the immigration battle hits home in Idaho. I'll tell you about a very troubling story about a person who is here illegally, and it's not looking good for him or the victims of a crime. The headline says it right here. Idaho, illegal accused of sexually assaulting, kidnapping girl from a park. What does that mean for the upcoming legislative session? What does that mean for any of these issues that continue to percolate? Are you a bad person if you say, we have a problem here? Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. No problem, just politics. Let's get you to work the right way. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. More of your reaction to Ouchie Fauci. We also have our attacks on Iran. Go big, go big, go big. The U.S. economic growth slowed in the second quarter, falling short of economists' expectations. We have retaliated against the Iranians, as you just heard from Fox News. We'll be doing more of that. Egypt suffering first drone attack winding into the Iranian war. Apparently now this plan could be 2 weeks in the works or 2 weeks long. Yesterday, the Fed voted 9-3 not to raise rates. You probably know that already. And the stock market went up and down. So we've got a lot to do. But let's go to this story that impacts everyone. And because we want to be responsible broadcasters, we want to make sure, boy, I apologize for my voice here. This is why you that work outside are the true superheroes. But we want to report the news accurately. We don't want to have a bias. We can have an opinion, but here's the headline. Here is the headline, dear true believer. ICE lodges detainer for man accused of kidnapping, sexually assaulting an Idaho teen. That is from the local publication, the Idaho Press, Breitbart. In Idaho, illegal accused of sexually assaulting, kidnapping girl from a park. Now, what we're starting to see here is, unfortunately, the wall coming down, the wall of silence, when you have people in the country illegally committing crimes, as has been noted by many people. And you had a lot of, how should I put this, true believers in the Idaho legislature that wanted to get a handle on this. And they were accused of a lot of things, and then you had people taking them out because you had big business who said, look, we need an economic solution to this problem. And it went back and forth, and the conservatives were 0-14 in the legislature, the massive Republican-dominated legislature. You have the tragedy involving the beautiful little girl on Harrison Boulevard, killed by someone in the country illegally. And then we have people saying, well, what did our police do? Did they cooperate? We put the police in a very, very bad situation. The feds come in, they take the guy, he's gone. And maybe it's our elected officials are afraid, maybe it's they don't agree with it, but people in the country here illegally should not be given jobs. And if they are given jobs, there needs to be some type of process. But when you're here and you're a criminal and you break the laws and nobody really covers it, and then you have people screaming and yelling and all sorts of things, these crimes are preventable. It's like driving distracted. It's preventable. And you have people online saying, who employs these people, let's hold them accountable. The problem is you have people that, and then you have, again, the ICE people, not a very pleasant job to have right now, and you've had some mistakes there. You can't turn a blind eye to, shooting the guy who is, here trying to work through the process. But here's what's going on locally. The United States Department of Homeland Security issued a statement regarding Jose Alberto Lozando Flores, an individual charged with kidnapping and sexually assaulting a teenager here in Idaho. According to DHS, they stated that Lorenzo Flores illegally entered the U.S. in 2023 and was arrested in 2026. By the way, I have not seen this on television. Now, I'm sure it has been. No, it hasn't. But we can air the reports on local TV, ripping ICE. We can air the reports everywhere else saying how bad ICE is. But have anybody seen this on TV? I haven't. I haven't even heard this on the radio. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement lodged a detainer to prevent his release from jail. DHS emphasized the importance of cooperation between federal and state authorities to keep criminal illegal aliens out of American communities. I don't think that's a bad move, do you? I don't think that's a bad move at all. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Big weekend for Boise State Athletics. They just released the North End Zone project, and with all due respect to everybody that is, promoting it, and it's good. The fact that Boise State has no money compared to other programs that through, and look, I'm going to give the credit to Mr. Dickey. And, sometimes we talk to Mr. Dickey, sometimes we don't. But this guy has continued to work. He's a man of faith. He's getting people together, getting this project going. I think they just got another donation of $2.5 million. But most of us are not going to be able to afford to go to the north end zone and hang out. So I guess watching the videos is a great thing, and the big money people can do that. But the rest of us, well, that's wonderful. That's great. It's exciting. And now that you have the bananas coming in. And as we talked about with Dave Petzo, and it's not even the bananas, it's the taxidermist versus the tow truck operators. I don't even know who they are. But this guy, Jesse from the bananas, it's a wonder. And then people go, and they're excited about this. And they go, look at me, I'm at the game. Well, good for you. You can watch it on ESPN, by the way, which I think is an even bigger story. So you're going to have a sellout for the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. And yet it is a challenge to sell out the stadium when it comes to the regular, real sports of football. But they're doing the best with what they have, which is now the field is blue and orange, and it will be something to see on ESPN. I think it's always great when we have out-of-towners come in. I believe the taxidermist and the tow truck operators are in. What's that, Sweet William? That's not who they're called? Okay, well, it's not even the Savannah Bananas. The whole vibe is so successful. The banana brand is so successful that you don't even have the party animals, which is who the bananas do this. And I've been on this bandwagon for quite some time because I love a person in an orange tuxedo. Let me share this with you. And by the way, you're welcome to join me at 580-5436-580-KIDO, but we'll give you a little in-depth, and that's the beauty of 4 hours of live radio. Some would say, well, Kevin, you're on with 5. We'll let you know it's the Ag Power Hour. So I could get on and go, hi, it's Kevin Miller. Moo! But then, my voice can barely hold up now because of the smoke. I digress. So here we have this guy, Jesse. You ever have a dream? Let me type this in. Jesse, the banana guy. Let's see. Misspelling banana. So much for Hooked on Phonics. Okay. Jesse Cole. He founded this Fans First Entertainment Vibe. And actually, he's written a few books. I think they were self-published. So this guy, how committed are you? Are you committed enough when you want to make extra money to go all in? The guy, I think he and his wife, he got a job in North Carolina. He was a baseball player. He was a manager of a minor league team, or not a manager, but a promotions guy. Somehow got enough money to buy the Savannah baseball team, an old garbage stadium, didn't have a lot going on, and just went all in. Like when you buy tickets to the Savannah Bananas, you don't pay any taxes. When you do this, and by the way, when they said, hey, the Savannah Bananas, they did a contest with this, and everybody hated it. Everybody hated the name Savannah Bananas. Now it's worth over $500 million. And a few years ago, they decided to go on tour. So they went to this place called Mobile, Alabama. And it was amazing. And so the brand has continued to grow, so much so that now they're here in Boise. And they've partnered with ESPN. And it initially, it started as a really, really bad thing because they had some technical difficulties. But now, because we're 4 or 5 weeks away from football season, if you don't want to go out into the weather, which no one does, if you are looking for something to do and you're tired of watching Casino Confidential on Prime, by the way, great ending to that series. I think it's like 20 years old, but great cliffhanger there. Should have had a second season. Then you can watch the Bananas live from Boise. Now, I'm surprised that we haven't had the mayor welcome the Bananas yet. I suppose that he or she will. But this is, again, anytime we have an opportunity to promote the Treasure Valley, the smoky Treasure Valley. But Boise State doing this because, frankly, they need the money. The Banana's doing it because they've sold out. What is it, 33,000 now? 35,000? And they pick up the tax for it? And you had to have a lottery to win these tickets? So it's really something, again, as we try to evolve the program, we'll give you more behind the scenes again and again. Coming up, we'll speak to Al and Brian. But first, our man, now my boy Eric on Twitter, on X, he's not a fan of Big Sean. And he let us know, gave us a great compliment. He said he's going to still listen to Sean because he's on 580 KIDO. I appreciate that, Eric. Appreciate you, brother. But my man Sean today at 1 on 580 KIDO.
Post online to target U.S. bases. Admiral Cooper warned that Iran's been benefiting from seeing the exact location of their strikes in real time after a video posted by a U.S. service member last month went viral, showing troops running for cover after an Iranian strike bread.
Yeah, I don't think.
Tonight,
thank you, Jackie Handrick of 580 KIDO Fox News. I don't think that we should be posting those things, and we are too video crazy. Not here. No pictures. No pictures, please. Let's go to Brian in Nampa with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Hello, Brian.
Cousin Miller, I missed you. I have to update you why I didn't call. Me and the Shield Maiden decided to stretch my legs and go down to Utah for a little relief from the up in smoke from the secondary high from Oregon burning. Since, they love marijuana over there, I'm sure we were all getting a little extra, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we just went down to Temple Square because it had been forever since I've been down there. And my sister, who has my same condition, lives down there. So we went to the mall and then went up and stayed with my sister. And I just have to give you an update. I did a lot better. I drove, like 5 hours, which is the most I've done for 3 years. And I had an attack afterwards, probably from getting all the secondary high out of me, but I stopped it and, then we came home. But yesterday, you talked about my little buddy, the sad little man that better run while he still can. You don't scare me, you sad little man. I watched or listened to the news on my cell phone about him taking the fifth hundreds of times. And I just have to remind him that his little pardon isn't going to work when he goes to Judgment Day. He's lucky I am not dead, because the first thing I'm going to do is ask my Lord and Savior if I can go bring him to him. And everybody says, why didn't anybody do anything about Stalin? Why didn't anybody do anything about Hitler? Well, why didn't you do anything about Fauci? I just, we all can talk a good game, but do you think they're going to do anything to him, Kevin? Or do you think he's just going to get a pass?
I think they're going to make a run at him. I think they are.
They better. For his own soul. Because he needs a little bit of judgment down here on this planet. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get 100 times worse upstairs for what he did to not just the American people, but the whole world. And if y'all can't see that, God help you. I don't know why you're so blind. I love you, Kevin. I done something, but I really honestly believe, Kevin, that COVID makes what's your weakness genetically worse. And I just don't understand in 2026, with all the technology we have and knowledge we have, why we can't hold somebody like that accountable. You would think nowadays, with all the knowledge and technology, and I'm going to be blunt, the spiritual power that people have, because I know there's a lot of bad people on this planet right now, but there's a heck of a lot of good people that know how to use the force. Let's just put it that way. you think we should be able to hold somebody like that accountable. But I missed you when I was gone, Kevin, but I needed a break. And anyway.
I'm glad that you got out. That's great.
Yeah, right before you get to Snowville, the smoke, dissipated enough. And then as we're driving back, we had to come back because of my condition. If I stop when I have to rest for, a day and a half, as soon as you were back in Snowville and you're coming up through that valley where those mountains are so pretty and you're right close to the Idaho border, you saw the dark haze, But I wish our politicians could do something about the West burning. Like, come on, guys. Let some cattle get out there and eat some grass. Let us manage our forests, whatever. Especially, and I'm talking a lot to the federal government because I know, like the BLM and all these different agencies that the federal government controls has more control over all this than the states. Come on, guys. Time to man up. Anyway, love you, Kevin. Any questions?
Love you, Brian. Thank you for the call. Let's get you to work safely and on time at 580 KIDO. Traffic. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Idaho Pizza Company studio. Traffic on the freeway looking good. It does get busy as you're coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. Don't forget about construction on State Street as you go east of Glenwood. The southbound lanes, they're working there, and you do have speed restrictions. Save money with Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air and get your annual AC tune-up for $49. Call or schedule online at callperfectnow.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Al, we're going to get to you, but you can warm up in the bullpen if you'd like. We don't want to take anybody for granted, but we don't want to get rolling with Al and then have to cut off Al. So we will move on, and we will take Al next hour as well as you. So what do we know? Well, the economy grew at 1.5% in the second quarter. The bananas are in town. The smoke continues. And, oh, yes, Koberger is changing his plea again and again and again. We got a lot going on. We need you to help us get to work safely and on time the right way, not only literally on the road, but obviously in the arena of ideas. So we appreciate you listening. Can't wait to hear what you have to say coming up. Got a lot to do today. And, of course, Dr. Fauci. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at peakhealthidaho.com. Check them out today. I'll see them Tuesday. peakhealthidaho.com. Kevin Miller, Fox News 580 KIDO. Al in Ontario. Good morning, Al.
Good morning. Summertime and the skies are smoky. Fish are jumping and there's smoke in the sky. Your dad is rich and your mom is good looking. So hush, little baby, it's just smoke in your eyes. Okay, yeah, we got a smoky, terrible situation in this country. It's all over the place, probably terrorists. That's what the terrorists used to do in Israel. They would start the forests on fire. That was the big thing that was terrorism. But we let 5-10 million people across these borders. And, but people are just basically brain dead and don't understand that, it's terrorists. We had the one terrorist who was going to attack the UFC White House event. It's just unbelievable. And everybody's, Fauci. They're getting so down on Fauci. Fauci is nothing more than one of the leaves on the branches that you people flail at. That's all he is. He's just another one of these millions and millions of bureaucrats. They're all the same. I mean, we got to put Fauci up there and look at this and look at this. But no, why don't you look at the reality? It's the deep state Marxists okay, activist judges. Okay, there's this great article, and, there was this bombshell memo that exposed that Biden was trying to give de facto amnesty to 3 million foreign invaders via the temporary protected status. And what he was doing, he was going to block President Trump from deporting them by forcing everything to go through the activist judges. Okay, which is and who are the activists? They're nothing but Fabians. Okay, gradually, you see, you can't have the DSA, okay, the Democratic Socialists of America, just flip the country real quick. They want to do that. But the Fabians are smarter. They know that you have to destroy America little by little. And the simple-minded Americans, unfortunately, are just going to basically they're going to
you're not speaking to the simple-minded Americans on this program, sir.
Well, to some degree that's true. You're right. I'm not. If you people think that I'm speaking to you, for the most part, I'm probably not. But you see, here's the whole thing. If the shoe fits, wear it, right? Okay, so there are so many of those. I mean, look at, there's people who are listening to talk radio. By and large, they're going to be the more mentally capable. There's no question about that. Okay, but nonetheless, there are some who are mentally incapable, and many who do wear that shoe of ignorance. But yeah, so we have thousands and thousands and thousands of these, rapists, murderers, terrorists, everything in this country. I mean, look. Stop stressing over Fauci, okay? He's nothing but one of the leaves on the branches, folks. Go to the root of the problem. Okay? And it's this Marxist freak show, injustice system where you have, basically what Thrasymachus said in Plato's Republic. Guess what? The justice system is really what's in the best interests of those in power, right? And that's really it. And so what we got to do is we got to make sure who we put in power, okay, are people who understand what made America great and what makes America great. And that's what we're doing, okay? If you take a look at how we're playing this game with, letting these immigrants into the United States. I mean, my goodness, who does this? I just read an article where they say that Europe is under energy poverty. So what is energy poverty? Okay, we have a 25 barrel per year lifestyle in the United States. Okay, money is energy. People don't get it, but money is energy. So you import all these people into the United States, millions upon millions, okay? And guess what? You're diluting the amount of energy that everybody gets. Europe is a basket case now because they continue to import all of these people, and there's not enough energy for them to even have air conditioners, for them to have anything. So let's just import everybody, okay, all the third worlders, okay, because, and particularly from Africa, import all of them because we know they were the ones in the United States who built the United States, right? Okay, it was the in the old days, during slavery, they're the ones who built America. Okay, they built it.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Come on, man.
Well, put on your thinking cap there, buddy. Put on your thinking cap. Put on your thinking cap. Guarantee you Chandler knows what I'm talking about.
That's nice. Thanks for the call, Al. Thanks for the call. America wasn't perfect. But when you start going to this, that, and the other, if you want to recite that, there's a perfectly good channel for you. It's called NPR. Did people use slave labor? Yeah, in the South. Did we rectify that problem? Yes. But if you're going to go full Mondami on us, you're belittling the work of the people that came to this country with absolutely nothing. And they had nowhere else to go but out west. Manifest destiny, sir. And then we could talk about the immigrants that came in, the Irish, the Italians, the Scots, the Russians, the Germans that were treated like garbage. But now, instead of celebrating people that conquered adversity, we have Al reciting the same progressive, illogical talking points. Like I said, there's a difference between the North and the South. Now, the people in the North, and again, we're in the West, so it doesn't really matter. We're agnostic on this. The people in the North, they didn't pay the immigrants well. They treated them horribly. They had slumlords. In the South, you had slaves. And then we had a war where a bunch of people, white and black, died to end that. Then we had the Jim Crow and the Civil Rights Movement and affirmative action and DEI. And then we think to ourselves, to quote the great Rodney King, can't we all just get along? But when you sit there and start harping and insulting the listening audience, you can insult me all you want, but not the listening audience. The fuel that feeds the 580 KIDO fire, Al. And Al, and if you want to have your sweet nothings with Chandler, go ahead. But for the rest of us, we're trying to do the right thing. And most of the time, we do. One person that is not doing the right thing is Ouchie Fauci, who was such a tough guy yesterday that he was squeamish. He was such a tough guy yesterday, he pled the fifth 111 times. And then he called out Senator Paul, a doctor. Senator Paul responded last night on Katie Pavlich's News Nation show. Do we have that, Sweet William?
Lots of people being obsessed with him, but during his opening statement, he accused you of having an unhinged obsession with him. What is your response to that, and do you think he'll ever apologize for anything that he did during his handling of the pandemic?
You know, I think my concern is justifiable. 1 million Americans died, 15 million died worldwide, and I'm not alone in believing this came from the lab. The CIA now believes that, the FBI believes that, the Department of Energy believes that. I would say a sizable percentage of scientists, particularly scientists in this arena, believe that. Even the scientists who were his yes men, the ones who were saying, oh, it came from nature, in their private emails to this day are still saying, well, gosh, I think it might have been manipulated. I hate that we said it could not have been manipulated. It looks like maybe it was. Anthony Fauci was saying the opposite. That's the big problem he has for credibility and for history, is he said so many things privately, and then he said the opposite publicly. Not just on this, on masks. Privately, he said masks don't work. In public, he wore 3 masks. Privately, he would acknowledge natural immunity. In public, he was saying, oh, we just don't know. We don't know. So there's a lot of public and private disparity. And I think that's really what's caught him up. And I think people don't like that hypocrisy.
No, especially given the consequences for them and the lack of consequences for people like Dr. Fauci, who was going to dinners with members of the media while he was telling Americans to cancel their Thanksgiving plans with their loved ones.
Katie Pavlich talking about Fauci going out with Jake Tapper. You know, I talk about this a lot with my friends and my family. Do you do the same thing? And maybe I think it's a primarily skill of the old people. Because when you're part of the old people empire, you see things that others don't, because you have this wide range of experiences, both good and bad. I can remember a person who I lost during COVID, one of the most successful local talk show hosts in America, Phil Valentine. And Phil, and I was one of those young, edgy people. You still are, even though you're a little bit more well-rounded, literally, not figuratively, or both. Anyway, Phil was a talk show host out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I would just, because, you know, the problem with people in talk radio is you expect them to have an opinion, and when you do, sometimes they offend you, and I get that. And I can remember sometimes saying stuff to Phil, and he would look at me like, it's okay. Like he knew something I didn't. And I think in my tender age of 58, I've actually become to figure that out. You see something that you didn't before. Maybe it's the Matrix, to quote our friend Tom Munns, as you see the bullets coming at you now, whereas before you didn't. And as I'm looking at the Wayback Machine, and man, it was me, it was our friend Jacob, it was Ray Amaya, it was Ronaldo Amaya, it was other people. We went through like 75 people trying to keep this thing on the road with me, and I'd be in 7 days a week. And remember, once again, thank you, Godless Corporation. I got COVID because I was deemed essential, and that the only reason why I'm broadcasting from home is I had to. I go, well, hey, man, other people are broadcasting. Not you, Kevin Miller. You get in there. Okay. And the Fauci stuff is triggering for a lot of us, and I remember people. And you know, God bless the people in the fire and police departments that would go to the senior centers and, you know, have the parades and the lights. And when you go to a senior center, it's even the best of them. You know, again, you talk about getting, a pass from St. Peter's, those people that work in the senior centers, and those that deal with dementia patients, those that deal with people that aren't all there through no fault of their own. And having had that firsthand experience in the last few years of seeing someone very close go through that, I go back to the decisions made by Dr. Fauci. Some would say people in the state complying with that, where you had people in the senior centers that couldn't see their loved ones, which obviously had a detrimental impact on their health. All the while, Dr. Fauci is hanging out, having a good time with the Kardashians, with Jake Tapper. There has to be an accountability for this, does it not? Like interest on a credit card, it may not be fair, but it's the right thing to do. You pay your debts. That's what really burns me about Dr. Fauci. What happened during COVID? And again, the legislature said they will never be marginalized again. They were. I mean, the governor declared a state of emergency, kept that rolling for quite some time, and nobody did a thing about it. Maybe they couldn't. No public pressure. And again, the governor, very powerful dude. If you are going to do those things, then you have to be all in and accept the consequences. Just because, you know, you disagree with someone doesn't mean they're going to let you continue to be disagreeable. And maybe that's why we had the fake legislative session and everything else, and a bunch of people whining and crying, but not really doing anything about it. We did something about it. We were there. Dr. Fauci did something about it. He looked at us as peasants, as idiots, as pawns, and we were. Whether that guy ever visits Idaho or not, there should be no sympathy for Dr. Fauci for what he did to all of us, because he was in charge. And again, we had Tea Party Bob and Lee Joe going back and forth concerning President Trump, Governor Little, and the like, but both of them are still in office. So apparently people agreed with their direction. But you go back to Dr. Fauci, and there should be no sympathy for this man. You know, I heard Senator Paul on with Sean Hannity, and basically, how about an apology? How about, I made a bad call at the line of scrimmage? And with all due respect, do we really need to have him, as Senator Hawley pointed out, on the cover of In Style magazine or whatever? The world's most famous scientist? At the very least, it's in poor taste. At the most, it's insensitive to those people that suffered and died. I lost my friend Phil. COVID. I can remember Kurt? Remember our man Kurt that they didn't have a place for him either at St. Luke's or St. Al's. They put him in a closet, and he would call in and say, Kevin, I don't know if I'm going to make it. We had, and Glenn and Nampa, we had so many COVID people. Man, that was quite an adventure. Maybe that's why YouTube is so popular now, that it's something that's always there. It's like the box in the attic or the closet, or Kevin Miller's many boxes of memories. But to go back, what's that, Sweet William? Yeah, the virus, the 1 or 2 viruses destroyed all our archives. But to go back and to hear a heart patient who couldn't see his wife, and then went from one hospital to another, and then he saw his wife and he lived. We were bonded then, and we still are. And maybe that's just our survival instinct when it comes to humanity, that we don't remember those things. But what an amazing, traumatic experience we all had. And as I said before, the guy that held the press conferences and was so condescending should be held accountable. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Absolutely nothing to do with football. Remember ivermectin? Remember hydroxychloroquine? It's only taken us how many years to pronounce that? Remember that? Senator Johnson saying this to Ouchie Fauci yesterday.
I've got the studies right here. There was a website that was tracking the random controlled studies. Here they are, showing 60, 70% efficacy of ivermectin. The same day you say there's no evidence, there was all kinds of evidence. Loved ones had to go to hospitals, had to sue hospitals. Just, would you try it? So I would want to know, to what extent were you involved in sabotaging hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and did you do that because you knew the only way you get an emergency use authorization for these drugs, these experimental gene therapy, was if there was no effective treatment, you couldn't get the emergency use authorization. So is that why you helped sabotage these cheap generic drugs in favor of remdesivir, which, by the way, nurses, are you aware of the fact that nurses called it run, death is near?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It's amazing. We have documentaries on fasting. We have documentaries on all sorts of things. Why not a documentary on basically the government's treatment of COVID? Oh, because there's still a media blackout over it. There's still a media blackout over it. Amazing. And by the way, I don't think anybody responded to this on the big tweet on the big X platform. They're going back to this goofy show on CNN where basically, and look, they're very talented people. But everybody argues. I so miss Hardball. I so miss the old Crossfire with Pat Buchanan. I'm so old. However, Jason Rantz, a Northwest guy, spending a lot of time in New York. I don't know if his time in Seattle is over, but basically blowing up concerning Ouchie Fauci and President Trump. For your listening pleasure at 580 KIDO.
This was intentional today to be about political theater. Let's just put that on the table, yes. Number one. Number two, I think people forget, one, Donald Trump was the president, and while Fauci was trying to save us, Trump was trying to grave us, telling people to drink bleach. And
so that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And I know that that's a talking point that people like to intentionally take out of context. It didn't happen. Yes, I'm telling you the president did not tell you to drink bleach. I'm telling you with a matter of fact, and everyone knows that the president didn't tell you to drink bleach.
I'm telling you otherwise. Then
you're wrong. You're wrong. I'm sorry. You're wrong.
Let me finish one point. As an African American sitting at this table, when America had a cough during that COVID-19 pandemic, Black America had the flu.
So now COVID is racist. Black Americans, white Americans, can't we all just get along? Can't we all just get along?
Dying at clips that no other constituents in another race were dying. So we took this pandemic very serious, and
Everyone took it
we need
seriously.
to be in a position to where when things like this happen, that we don't press the ignore button and act.
Agreed. And that's what
Yeah, nobody pressed the ignore button. Nobody did. Nobody pressed the ignore button. In fact, we could say that we overreacted. And lives were lost. Hearts were broken. People felt abandoned. Where's that with Dr. Fauci? Where's that? By the way, you'll love this one. Apparently, all over Washington, D.C., they have Mitch McConnell wanted posters with the missing Kentucky senator looking like a turtle. Have you seen this man? But it's crazy where people are just going toe to toe and yelling and screaming about COVID. With all due respect, these guys were, I don't know, maybe in college. Maybe they were whatever during COVID. But they know. Really?
In other words, we need to believe science when it comes to having fixing these
I
things.
think Fauci
Science does not need to plead the fifth 111 times. It does not need
You know,
a 12.
when the chair of the hearing, the senator, has said repeatedly that he wants to put you behind bars.
Yeah. Fauci put a lot of people behind bars. And science, I love this from the lady from the New York Post. Science, and by the way, how many of us have ever pled the fifth? Maybe with our husbands or wives. I'm going to do that the next time the Godless Corporation has something. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I choose not to answer based on my constitutional rights. We'll see if I'm with you the next morning on that. But Fauci's made millions. Fauci is famous. Fauci has defenders. Why in the world? Why don't we just have a real, honest, provocative thing? Fauci, you, my friend, are going to tell the truth. And the truth is, we all know that the COVID virus didn't come from America. And by the way, remember, we couldn't call it the China virus? And a lot of people took issue with me. Kevin Miller, why are you doing this? My job was to protect the program and to protect the radio station. But they're right. They ran a ton of people out of business, destroyed them. Where is the reconciliation with that?
Let me ask you a question. Can you be a little bit more specific about what you think Fauci did and said that was so wrong that based on what we knew at the time, that you should hold him accountable for every bad thing that happened during COVID as a result of the virus and lockdown?
So the diaries are quite illuminating because he was writing one thing at the same time that he was saying something very different publicly. He was extremely dismissive, for instance, of the origins of COVID. At the same time that he was saying, I don't think this is from the wet market. That's just one example.
Okay.
Well, he went further than that, right?
Hold on.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was from the lab. Why have we held China accountable? Because China's our daddy. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO traffic. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Talked about was at the Fauci hearing, and we know not everybody gets Fox News, but you get the clips on the tube, on YouTube. Here's what she had to say with Senator Johnson concerning Dr. Anthony Fauci.
A study by Stanford found that the shot can cause heart damage. Yet Fauci and company ignored the risks, punished dissent, and pretended like none of this was really happening. Those were all the vaccine skeptics speaking. Here to weigh in is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, who was fantastic today at the Fauci hearing. Senator, it was frustrating sitting there watching Fauci just plead the fifth. It was what I predicted. But at this point, what can be done given the fact that a lot of people are still suffering from what they believe are adverse effects of this experimental shot.
We need to get our federal health agencies to admit that the vaccine or the injection injuries are real so that they can be treated. It's been 5.5 years, and they still have not acknowledged that fact. I mean, we issued our report on April 29th showing that Peter Marks knew that their algorithm was going to hide safety signals. He was showing dozens of safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, which, by the way, Fauci suffered from in June of 2021. Plus, he got COVID a couple times after all the injections and boosters that he got. So again, we need the federal health officials to come clean, and that's why I'm doing my investigation. You know, we've uncovered this. Legacy news media, not one news outlet has covered this as news. I've been interviewed on shows like this, but not a newspaper or a major broadcast station has covered our bombshell report, the greatest government scandal of my lifetime. They've not covered it as news. So it starts with acknowledging the fact that these injections cause death, they cause injury, so that these people can be treated.
Yeah, well, in medical school, I believe one of the first things you learn is the principle of first do no harm. You have to weigh the benefits with the risks in any treatment plan. And the risk here to healthy people were not insignificant, and they were hidden from the American people repeatedly. Now, Senator Johnson, you want to haul Fauci back in front of Congress, but look, he has those high-priced attorneys at his side, a wall of attorneys. It's going to plead the fifth, so how would this...
Very good by Laura Ingraham. How would this work? By the way, this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. Congratulations to our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. At last week's Best of Boise Awards, did you know that Treasure Valley Subaru was once again voted Best New Car Dealership? But that's not all. They also won Best Used Car Dealership and Best Auto Dealer Service Department. That says something, because when people buy cars or get their service done, everybody's picky, and they pick the best. The Best of Boise, Treasure Valley Subaru, new car dealership, best used car, and best service department. So whether you're shopping for a new Subaru, a quality pre-owned vehicle, or need your current car serviced, Boise says Treasure Valley Subaru is the best. And you know what? Those awards really matter to Rob and the team, because they've always believed if they take care of the customers, the business takes care of itself. Now, here's another reason to stop in this week at Treasure Valley Subaru. And last week of the month and through Sunday, you can still get 0% financing up to 75 months on new Subarus, including the completely redesigned 2026 Subaru Outback. If you're shopping pre-owned instead, the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore has a great selection of reliable cars priced under $25,000. And Treasure Valley Trucks is where you'll find like-new trucks for half the price of brand-new trucks. Treasure Valley Subaru, the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, Treasure Valley Trucks, and the Treasure Valley Service Center. All together at the Idaho Center Auto Mall and online at TreasureValleySubaru.com. That's TreasureValleySubaru.com. We appreciate, their service to the community and the Best of Boise. So congratulations to them. Back to Fauci. Back to the Fauci. Fauci saying he's a victim. He's a poor little Fauci. We have even Andy Cohen of Bravo skewering the senators for going after Fauci for quote-unquote imaginary crimes. Really? Is that what it comes down to? Stephen Miller, no relation. By the way, I know Sean blurped those things, but the senator from Ohio dropping the F-bomb, wow. Anyway, here is Stephen Miller with our own Laura Ingraham at 580 KIDO.
Stephen, I want to move on to the news of the day, which was Anthony Fauci's repeated taking of the Fifth Amendment, pleading the Fifth instead of answering basic questions about his handling of COVID, gain-of-function research, et cetera. Given what we know now, that we've known his private diaries, his diaries aren't private, they're written on government computers, so forth. Does the president, in your mind, have any regrets about having put him center stage for as long as he did in the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I think it's quite the opposite, Laura. If you remember in 2020, it was President Trump, sometimes alone, sometimes single-handedly, who was fighting the corrupt and broken healthcare establishment. President Trump was the one who questioned the origins of COVID. President Trump is the one who questioned the need for requiring every single American to be tested over and over and over again. He's the one who questioned whether we should require children and healthy adults to be subject to restrictions for an illness that primarily targets the elderly and the sick.
Yeah, but Stephen, Fauci was all over the place on television. Yeah,
but the fights,
yes.
Remember,
but he went out
it's
there.
too easy to rewrite the history of this period. I was there, Laura. I have to be very clear on this point. President Trump saved America from a Great Depression by fighting against those who wanted to shut down the schools and shut down our way of life. He fought to reopen the government. And if you remember, the Biden campaign in 2020 spent hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing President Trump for fighting to keep America open at every single step. Every day the news cycle was the so-called healthcare establishment attacking President Trump for questioning the experts. And President Trump at the same time moved heaven and earth because there were people who did have pre-existing conditions, they had comorbidities, who did need help. He moved heaven and earth to get our hospitals the equipment and materials they need, which is why we had a vastly lower death rate than all the other developed nations of the world. So I salute President Trump for what he achieved, and I'm glad that America got to see in the hearing today exactly why President Trump fought the healthcare establishment the way that he did, and why today Bobby Kennedy is the Secretary of Health, because President Trump has always put families and patients before the so-called healthcare government experts who oftentimes have an agenda of their own.
Stephen, it's always great to see you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Boy, it got to be wild for Laura Ingraham when you have Stephen Miller on, who, is, number 3 in the White House, if you will. And Laura Ingraham can remember when Laura Ingraham was the big star. She still is, but Stephen Miller is so articulate, so vilified. By the way, can pleading the Fifth make it worse for Fauci? CNN had Dr. Ryan Goodman on, a New York School of Law professor, and said, hey, man, is Fauci in trouble?
Oh, Ryan, 112 times to invoke the Fifth Amendment. I mean, you can't even string all that together. That obviously, it sends a message. Will that strategy work? Because he says, well, I had to do that because, they're looking for perjury traps. Or does that just make it worse, and is he in real trouble?
I think it makes it worse. It's even a curious way in which you wonder what his legal advice was, why they decided to do that.
Yeah.
Because he does not face criminal jeopardy for the pardon in all likelihood. He's pardoned for all actions before January 2025. But that also means that you're forced to testify. That's how prosecutors use immunity or pardons, and they say now you're forced to testify because you don't have any criminal liability, what we're going to ask you about. So then to plead the Fifth is actually, he could then be held in contempt. There could be, theoretically at least, a Justice Department that goes after him for not answering when he is not really facing that criminal charge.
Yeah, and also when the reason put out is perjury traps, then of course, again, to the layperson, it's saying, well, why wouldn't you just say the truth? What would be the problem in that?
Yeah, so Erin Burnett couldn't help herself but defending Ouchie Fauci. The bottom line here is the Trump Justice Department, it's still retribution. They're going to go for Fauci. And when you have Stephen Bannon, or is it Stephen K. Bannon, or is that Stephen K. Hayes, the ninja, not the writer? Steve Bannon going to jail. Peter Navarro going to jail. What did they go to jail for? They went to jail for contempt of Congress. Well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Is that a popular legal theory, Kevin Miller? Yes. Yes. And it's unfortunate that we don't have more of a balanced coverage when it comes to the Fauci hearings. Senator Tuberville, not Tuberville, Tuberville, who we've had a chance to speak with, held nothing back concerning Dr. Fauci.
Happened. I was on the health committee when the COVID first hit. We went through probably every other week, maybe sometimes every month. We had a hearing with Dr. Fauci. We all asked him questions. he lied to us, and he knew he was lying to us because we found out all the information now since then. A lot of it even in his diary, Liz. But the problem is he hurt trust in this country. He put this country in a tailspin. He almost bankrupted our country with what they did. Between Obama and Biden, this guy gets Weasel of the Year award. I mean, he will eventually end up either broke or in prison, because I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'm eventually going to be the governor of Alabama. And we had the most of anybody per capita of dying in this country. And we're going to sue the heck out of this guy. He's going to court every day of his life for the rest of his life. And he's going to have to look these people in the face, these families, because the pardon does not cover state government. And we're going to go after him with everything we've got, because the guy killed or had something to do with killing 9 million people.
Yeah, we can't prove that, right? But that's yet to be determined, how many people are due to that.
We can determine it. Okay. We can determine it because he was in on the gain of function. He was.
You're saying you can determine it. We understand that, yes. We understand that you want to move to do that. I want to get to the lawsuit point that you made.
There we have it. So what's going to happen? He may have federal immunity, but he doesn't have state immunity. So what could we see? We could see states like Idaho, Wyoming, Alabama, Texas, hauling him in for the rest of his life. Does that sound extreme? Does that sound brutal? Does that sound cruel? Tell it to the people that aren't on the cover of whatever it is magazine. And by the way, I'm going to share with you a lesson from Fauci that applies to all of us when it comes to hubris next. Kevin Miller, thank you for joining us. You're listening to 580 KIDO. Long yearning for Ron Grant is over. Ron Grant returns, everybody.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Ron, we missed you. Good morning.
I missed you guys. How you doing today?
Well, we are good, and money is in the news. We got bubbles. We got Ron Grant. We're trying to figure out how to keep it safe, especially when we're retired or close to retirement. Ron, where do we go from here, sir?
You know, buddy, it's important because you worked hard, 30, maybe 35 years. You try to put money away for your retirement, and most people just didn't save enough, or they didn't start early enough. But the big offender is they stayed in risk too long. What do we know about risk? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, oil, gas, etc. You know, my clients and I sleep at night, Kevin, knowing that we can't lose our principal and we can't lose our gains. And that's so important because that's our dignity money. That's what we work for. The most important thing is to have a lifetime income that you can't outlive. And that's what my clients and I have. If you're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets it for the rest of their life. And then when they pass, their beneficiaries get the balance. So it's important to have that lifetime income stream to make sure that you have a great and enjoyable retirement out of the risk and the fees of the Wall Street casino. Hello? Hello?
Sean Hannity.
There's never been a party in this country as radicalized as the current Democratic Party, led by Bernie Sanders, Pocahontas, Mamdani.
Weekdays at 1.
Led by AOC, now the frontrunner in New Hampshire, according to the latest poll for presidential politics for 2028. I think the odds of her being the candidate are very, very high, to be very blunt.
KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM and 580 AM.
We welcome back. Hopefully we'll get Ron Grant back on here in a minute. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And Ron, welcome back. Sorry, had a little power surge there. We were talking about protecting your money. You've worked hard for 30, 35 years, maybe even more. And man, bubbles, schmubbles. We remember 08, don't we, old friend?
Yes, sir. You know, back in 08 when the market tanked almost 50%, you know, trillions of dollars were lost to 50 to 70-year-olds. My clients and I were sleeping knowing that we can't lose our principal and we can't lose our gains, and that's so important. It's important to have a lifetime income, Kevin, that you can't outlive, and that's what I've done for my money, and that's what I do for my clients' money, because that's your dignity money. That's the money you worked hard for. And most of you will outlive your money for 3 reasons. Number 1, you didn't start early enough. Number 2, you didn't put enough away. But number 3, you stayed in risk too long. What do we know about risk? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, etc. So my clients and I sleep at night knowing that we can't lose our money, and that's so important, Kevin.
Well, Ron, let's talk about you. Are you accessible? Are you in Pocatello? Are you in Poughkeepsie? Where are you, Ron? Are you local?
I'm local, buddy. I'm right here in the Treasure Valley. And, it's education, education, education. It's knowledge is power. We educate and hopefully find out when you need the money, how you need the money, and make sure that we're finding the right product for you. That's what's important, because it's your money, and you want to keep it safe.
Well, Ron, that's where the website and the phone number comes in, right?
Yes, sir. Website, safermoneyspecialist.com. And let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley. And that's 208-660-1372.
Ron Grant, as always, welcome home.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. You have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Yeah, sorry about that. That happens. Let's see. Liberal Steve, we're going to hold you. Hopefully you'll hold. Don't take it the wrong way. But let's get you to work safely and on time at 580 KIDO. And yes, Bo, that was a poorly timed power surge. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic now on the freeways. You're coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. An accident just before 10 Mile that has traffic backing up almost to the county line right now. Don't forget tonight, 84, both east and westbound will be closed from 10 Mile to Garrity starting at 10 o'clock. Enjoy craft cocktails and a refined dining experience every Thursday through Saturday at the Tavern inside Indian Creek Steakhouse in Caldwell. For specials and events, find Indian Creek Steakhouse on Facebook. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
And we appreciate that. By the way, coming up, Liberal Steve, I don't know what he's going to be talking about, but we'll get it from our resident alien. Some of the other local news, obviously. Are we ever going to get any relief from the heat? Apparently, allegedly, early next week, but today, this weekend, it's going to be a challenge. Power of prayer, folks. Thank you, Treasure Valley Subaru, for sponsoring this hour of the Kevin Miller program. Only on, say it with me, everybody, 580 KIDO. Loud Lars, that is a compliment. All of you that tell on me with Lars Larson. KIDO, talkradio.com, the app, the schmap, the BAP, the rap, the yap. And Glenn Beck, no one better at night to listen to right here on the big 580 KIDO. We go to our resident interplanetary alien. The Beastie Boys actually did a song about him called Intergalactic. He joins us now, Liberal Steve at 580 KIDO.
Hello, Idaho. Hello, Kevin Miller. What a wonderful show with Fauci today. Fauci's never going to see a jail cell with all these tough-talking senators and stuff. Trump got COVID. I got COVID. Twice I think I got COVID. So what good did that stupid vaccine do that everybody took? Apparently, I don't know. Fauci got the dang COVID, but he's never going to see. When do any of these millionaires, you know what? Fauci's on his pension right now, and he gets $414,000 a year pension.
Should have been a scientist.
I know. Come on. What's happening? And they when they do the stupid stuff, they put how many times he pleads the fifth. He has the right to plead the fifth. Heck, what was it, 2022 that Trump pled the fifth 440 times in a 4-hour period?
Where was that? Where was that? Was that on national television? Oh, that was one of those kangaroo court things. Yeah, okay.
Does it matter?
Yes,
it was still
it does. Were lives lost because of the Trump court case? Did Trump get immunity in that? Did Trump get immunity in that?
Yeah.
No, he didn't. Did he?
Oh, Kevin,
Oh, yes.
I can't debate it. You know, what do you think of Dr. Oz? Do you think he's a good guy?
I think Dr. Oz never should have run for the Senate. And I told you that at the time because I knew Fetterman would win.
Yeah, but what do you think of him as far as human?
I don't know. I mean, didn't know that was Dr. Phil that Oprah discovered. I don't really have an opinion on Dr. Oz. Smart guy, smarter than Fauci.
How about Mandini? What do you think of Mandini? Do you think he's a smart guy?
The commie?
Yeah, Mandini. The commie Mandani. Do you think he's a smart guy?
You know, I think, unfortunately, Mandami needs to go do some real work and dig a ditch or join the military and figure out that life is not about himself. I think he has a very limited life experience.
Well, that guy that calls from Emmett says that he's a Muslim. Did you know that he's a Muslim?
Can I, and let me just say this back to Mandami, that not only do I think that Mandami is limited life experience, but he is one of these folks, and it's just the new reality that you can get, and he's very proficient at the TikTok, the schmick-talk, and all those things, and boom, he's brilliant. Instead of like you and I laying drywall or hauling cement blocks as kids.
But did you know that he's Muslim?
I don't know. What is this? Ask the Champs today?
Well, that guy from Emmett, Idaho always says that Mondani's Muslim, so I looked it up. He is Muslim. But you know what?
Well, hold on. Thank goodness we figured that one out today.
Dr. Oz is Muslim, too. So quit using the Muslim stuff, okay? And
I don't think Dr. Oz is going after Israel or saying that he's going to arrest the leader of a free state.
What do you mean arrest the leader of a free state? He's committed genocide. Come on. Are you blind, dude? Are you blind? Come on, quit protecting him because
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that. Me and my boomer friends, we back Israel.
Well, good for you and your boomer friends, because Israel owns the Congress, they own the Senate. And
no, they don't. They don't own the Congress as much as they do anymore. I can remember when my daddy, Pat Buchanan, talked about the Amen Corner. He was called anti-Semitic and this, that, and the other. I don't think they own the Democrats. That what did they do? Didn't they condemn Israel the other day? No, they don't own the Congress anymore.
They said the Democrats. Yeah, okay. Well, answer me this.
One thing you could say about me, you can never say that I'm anti-Semitic. You can never say that, man. I'll go down with the ship. Me and Ben Shapiro.
Have I ever said that? Have I ever said that?
No, I'm just since you're asking me a bunch of questions, I'm providing answers for you.
Did you know that Israel has free schooling all the way through college and beyond for anybody that wants it?
You know, like I said, we've had an opportunity to go to Israel, to take the show to Israel, and I'm just not in that season of my life anymore, I don't think.
Did you know, look what we did in the United States about abortion. Did you know that abortion...
I don't know where this is really going.
Well, abortion's legal in Israel. And did you know that you and I, as taxpayers, because the Congress, pay for all of that? And do you want us to join forces with Israel, become two, U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Israel Army, U.S. Israel, where we're just one? Do you want that to happen?
I can't really speak for foreign policy here. I don't really know where we're going here.
Well, do you want them to be able to come into the United States, because that's what it'll allow, and shoot U.S. citizens? Do you want that to happen, Kevin?
I think that's above my pay grade, if you will.
U.S. forces aren't going to shoot U.S. citizens, but Israeli IDF will.
Okay.
They don't care.
Have you been medicating yourself this morning?
Well, you can yuck it up all you want, Kevin, but that's real people dying over there.
What's the point? What's the point of the call today, sir?
The point is the Taliban kicked our butt for 20 years. We finally left in disgrace, and now we're going to play this game with Iran like we can beat them. Come on. The only way you could beat anybody in this world is to walk away.
There we have it. Congratulations, Liberal Steve, declaring we're all losers. Thank you, Liberal Steve. You know, the problem is that we don't have people that are backing the people that are actually doing the work. So, of course, if you're the Iranians, all you hear about is we're running out of weapons. Of course, if you're the Iranians, you hear Liberal Steve on 580 KIDO with Kevin Miller in the morning talking about how we can't win. And they go, well, and then they continue on. They should be demoralized and destroyed. The mullahs. Guess we lost Liberal Steve. Where that was going, I don't know. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Window World Boise. Window World Boise. WindowWorldBoise.com. We'll tell you a little bit more about them as well. Speaking of good old Kami Mandami, you're going to love this one. An 81-year-old New York City resident who lived in her townhouse full-time for 30 years with no other residents receives a deadline to prove she's exempt from Mandami's tax, or she will owe $56,000. Must be taxing the rich. Oh, that's right. She's on the Upper East Side. Pretty bad.
Gone out warning thousands of homeowners they may have to pay the new controversial pied-à-terre tax. It's a surcharge for people who own property here but declare their primary residence outside of the city. As Lisa Rosner reports, some residents are confused and concerned they're on the list when they shouldn't be.
An 81-year-old woman on the Upper East Side tells CBS News New York she's lived full-time in her townhouse for 3 decades and has no other residence. Yet she received a letter from the city warning she has until August 21st to prove she's exempt from the new pied-à-terre tax, or she'll owe $56,000. It stems from the mayor's promise in April to tax the rich.
This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city.
The mayor says the move approved by Governor Hochul helped close a budget gap without slashing essential services. As part of the rollout, the city created a database of addresses that includes but is not limited to those properties that may be subject to the surcharge. It's creating confusion for homeowners like Eugene Dooley, whose Staten Island condo is in the database, but he says it's the only home he owns.
Retired on Social Security. You know, that's basically the money that I get.
He says he did not get a warning letter, and neither did the borough president Vito Fasella, but they're both in a new potential pied-à-terre tax database.
In my case, it's the house I grew up in that my father lives. We both have the same name. He owns it, and I have my house. The danger is it's almost like an enemies list that's being created, right? The whole notion of that property is a bad thing, that the American dream is actually now an American nightmare.
The Currys are among several homes on an Annandale Street in the database.
I think it's ridiculous.
This is all working class, you know, and families and children and grandchildren.
The city says it's committed to implementing the new surcharge fairly and efficiently. On Staten Island, Lisa Rosner, CBS News, New York.
Boy, the city says that it's launched a dedicated...
Okay, enough out of you. I got to tell you, what an example of great reporting right there. Outstanding reporting. Really stories that make a difference. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Some big stories going on nationally in Michigan, the big primary. Also, you will have Senator Lindsey Graham, God rest his soul, the battle for his Senate seat. Here is his sister, Darlene.
I'm a conservative Republican, and I believe this. Every life is precious. Men don't belong in women's sports, and only American citizens should vote in our elections.
Wonder if we're going to have anybody in Idaho run ads like that.
I'm honored to serve South Carolina and grateful for President Trump's endorsement, and I'll work hard every day to earn it.
Boy, gotta love that voice, that twang, if you will. Will she make it? Stay tuned, true believer. Internationally, it isn't looking good for the Iraqis. Here's 580 KIDO's Trey Yanks with the very latest from the region.
Dozens of targets were hit, including IRGC military command centers, drone and missile facilities, along with the remnants of their maritime capabilities. U.S. Central Command released a statement saying CENTCOM forces successfully completed a heavy wave of strikes against Iran in response to yesterday's attempted missile attacks on U.S. forces. The strikes aim to further diminish threats posed by Iran and its proxies to American forces, commercial shipping, and neighboring Gulf countries. Earlier in the day, President Trump told Fox News, quote, "We're going to beat the effing S out of them," after the Iranians launched that surprise attack on U.S. forces in Jordan.
Yeah, Tough one there. A tough one there, if you will. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Must be the smoke. Is it time for water break? Not yet. Remember, Window World Boise, windowworldboise.com. If you want your windows to protect you from the bad air, maybe it's the sealant. Maybe it's time to give them a call at 614-3188. That's 614-3188. When you're looking at getting your exterior remodeled, Window World Boise installs energy-efficient windows like we have here at the Broadcast Center in West Ada. Doors, siding, and much, much more. Homeowners throughout the entire Treasure Valley. Locally owned, veteran-owned. Windows, patio doors, siding, entry doors, proudly made in America. And if you're looking for a total exterior solution, they've got it. Nationally known, locally owned, Window World Boise. Call them up, tell Yo, and that's his name, say, Yo! Hey, Yo! Kevin Miller said to call you, bub. Limited time only, 0% interest for 18 months. 614-3188. That's 614-3188. windowworldboise.com. Appreciate their multi-year commitment to the Kevin Miller program. Phone numbers here. You know them. Email kevin@KIDOtalkradio.com. One more, because this is what happens. Unlike in Boise, when you have someone who is not qualified to be the police chief and they don't fire him, they give him a golden parachute. In Seattle, they give him the boot. Hello.
Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson has relieved Police Chief Sean Barnes of his duties, according to reporting from Fox 13 Seattle. It follows Sunday's mass shooting at the Bite of Seattle Food Festival that left 3 dead, including a 19-year-old suspect and 4 others hurt. City officials have not publicly confirmed the change in police leadership. Barnes' scheduled media interviews on Wednesday afternoon were abruptly canceled, and he was later seen that evening at a candlelight vigil for the victims of the shooting. Following the shooting, the police department was criticized for its response, including a delay of several hours before a news conference was held, with the assistant chief finally providing an update that evening. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Yeah, it's really very, very, very weird. Very strange. Here you have a deadly shooting. And the reason why it's strange is because nobody wants to admit what it really was, a gangbang shooting involving kids. A 2-year-old, 3-year-old injured, shot. And as we've reported, and basically recycling the stuff out of Seattle, the police were ready to go, but the mayor wanted, allegedly, and she's denied this, the governor and Congresswoman Jayapal to be there. I didn't know that Governor Livingston or Jayapal were crime fighters, but apparently they are. Another reason to thank you, Lord, for Idaho. We may not be perfect, but we ain't Seattle. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. To, how should we put this? To enjoy your last few weeks of summer with this type of weather. Ouch. We still are at the war. We still are battling. I like this. Liberal Steve is continuing to hit us, saying that this program is not real. It's some type of illusion, like he's in a coma or the Matrix, if you will. No, we are real. We are analog, if you will. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. More coming up as we move along, but it's hard to believe that here we are in a war. Here we are with, as we're battling the most evil regime known to man. And we just kind of move on with our lives as if it's dealing with the western wildfires, dealing with everything else, all sorts of things. Know what I mean? This is the defining moment of our generation. Now, some people could say COVID and schmovid and everything else. And we do need to hold people accountable. And it would be nice if, in the age of Elon Musk, in the age of everything else, that we could actually figure out a solution to this horrific air that we're breathing. Maybe we could get Dr. Fauci on it, Senator Cruz.
Dr. Fauci ought to think about what it says about the end of his career, that what he will be remembered for the most is pleading the fifth more than 100 times.
Was it 111? Was it 112? Cowardly Fauci. Cowardly Fauci. In the end, he didn't go out with a blaze of glory. He went out with a whimper. Locally, Mr. Kohberger continues to try to change his plea.
The judge ordering the Idaho State Public Defender to appoint Brian Kohberger a new attorney to represent him in all post-conviction relief proceedings. This comes 13 months after the 32-year-old stood before a judge admitting to murdering 4 University of Idaho college students under oath while pleading guilty on the eve of his death penalty trial last year. But now, more than a year later, he wants to take it all back, and he has filed this handwritten motion claiming his innocence and blaming his attorneys, writing a part, quote, petitioner was convinced to falsely confess to capital murder and felony burglary by coercion, disinformation, false promises, and withholding exculpatory discovery.
Do you think he had a bad childhood? Do you think that he was spoiled? And how would you like to be? How would you really, really, really like to be those poor public attorneys, the public defenders that said, you're working for Kohberger and you're going to like it? And by the way, only in America, only in Idaho, we're paying for it. And you can call it hubris, you can call it narcissism, you can call it insensitive, and you could say a lot of things, but, just because I'm, we'll go back to this thing. Sometimes I feel like a nut, sometimes I don't. Kohberger. So now we have to pay for this because we want to make sure that he, not an innocent man, is jailed. This guy with the DNA stuff and everything else, he's a lot like Fauci in a way, because when he had a chance to plead his case, he sissed out. Remember, the world's media was right down the road from the smoke-filled broadcast center. Kohberger, not that anybody cared about the victims, they did that so they could basically cover this trial and, again, program themselves to the algorithm. And now we have son of Kohberger coming back because he says he's innocent. And now the state is going to send resources and everything else. You have some of the family members saying, let's get another chance at a death penalty. What the media doesn't cover, what the criminal justice does its very best to explain, dear friend, is that, can you imagine the amount of terror that went through those 4 beautiful children? And then the evilness of this guy who admitted guilt, that him and his little knife, and, he leaves the sheet there or whatever, and then he's driving around. Can you, is it cortisone levels? Is it anxiety? That the guy just thought he would get away with it, and then he got scared, and he doesn't like being in the pen because the other convicted criminals on death row or not on death row, they don't like him at the maximum security. So he talks to the New York Times. I don't know about you, but I can tell you this, and sometimes, because I like reading the stories behind the stories, where these reporters, these media people, and I know there are a lot of people that this was their chance to make it to the big time. Maybe they've written one letter to Koberger, but for the New York Times, I'm sure they had an entire department trying to get this interview. Did it really serve the public interest to bring this up? Not really. Did it drive a bunch of traffic to their website? Yeah. More coming up next. Let's go to Concern in Emmett with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Hello, Concern.
Good morning, Kevin. Yes, I wanted to comment against, Steve, if he just pull his face off the bong and wake up and smell the coffee. He says that Israel's creating genocides. Does he ever, actually do any research and see what's going on in northern Africa, how the Muslims are just destroying the Christians, and simply because they're Christians? If Israel wanted to create genocide, they would just wipe Gaza Strip right off the map. That, people throw the words around. They don't even understand anything. It's like genocide is what the Muslims are doing to the Christians in northern Africa. Just read it and figure it out, and it's just like so frustrating to see these people that just can't see the writing on the wall, but I know myself personally, it's biblical, but Fauci, you look at everything the Biden administration did, pardoned everybody just preemptively, knowing the only reason you would do that is when people are guilty, and maybe Fauci's dancing in a minefield, because that's what he's doing, because in the end there is a judgment and he's going to face that, and that'd be his biggest concern at his age. He should be thinking about, and same with everybody else. They need to think about that. There is a judgment, and there's a place that one time is going to come that you can't lie, and you're just going to face that judgment because he knows who you are. And it's just to hear the ignorance, and it's like, well, let's just mind our own business. Well, in Steve's theory, it's like mind our own business. Let's just open the borders and let them come here. As long as I'm safe in my house, that we don't need to concern ourselves with anything. But when the Muslims come there and tell him you're either a Muslim or we're going to kill you, then he might have another thought about that, because that's what the Quran tells him to do, and the ignorance, like I said, to sit there and say Israel's creating genocide, what a farce, but I guess if you listen to the liberal news a lot, then that's what you focus on. But, it's just, I don't understand, why people can't pick up things and actually read it and see the other side of it. They only want to see the side that benefits their deal. So
no, I agree with you. I'm just fighting this coughing here, Concern. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like, well, I can't believe it because we got so much smoke. But God bless your show, Kevin. And I just was encourage people, to pick up the Bible and read, and see what it's all about. Because, as we grow older, we should be thinking about our face and our judgment and what it's for, and the cost that it took to get us freedom. But God bless your show, Kevin. And once again, Bill Roscoe, what an awesome job. Now there's God doing his work in the right way. So thank God for him.
Thank God for Reverend Bill. We love Reverend Bill. Thank you, Concern. We go to Sherry, who wants to talk about Fauci with Kevin Miller. Thank you for listening, Sherry. You're on 580 KIDO.
Hi. I just wanted to say that Dr. Fauci pleading the fifth is really lame. To me, that means yes, that he's guilty or whatever the positive response should be. I was in the military, and they instructed us while I was anywhere that if anyone asked us if we had nukes on the base, we were supposed to say, I can neither confirm nor deny. I never knew because I didn't have that kind of clearance, but I didn't know, so I just said, I don't know. And, but anyway, I just wanted to say that Fauci is a traitor to me for participating in this COVID research, and I don't know, I hope he gets fired from his job at least, and that's all I got to say.
And you said it well, Sherry. Thank you for the call. 580 KIDO. Don't forget our friends at Window World Boise, windowworldboise.com. They're bringing you this portion of the Kevin Miller program. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580 KIDO, we roll on. Poor little Dr. Fauci. RFK, talking to our own Sean Hannity, RFK Jr., had this to say concerning Mr. Fauci. Let's take a listen.
How do we prevent that from happening again?
Well, there were doctors like Peter McCulloch and Robert Malone and Pierre Corey who were saying from the beginning, they were looking at the data and saying, yeah, this causes myocarditis. It causes blood clots. It causes myocardial or pulmonary infarctions. And they were being censored. They were being vilified, marginalized, demonized, delicensed, publicly scolded by the press. The media malpractice is really what I think we should focus on, because anybody who questioned Dr. Fauci was put off on an island. They were pariahs. And the media every day was telling us, trust the experts. Well, he was the expert. And we now know he was lying about everything. He was lying about masks. He was lying about social distancing. He was lying about lockdowns. He was lying about natural immunity. He was lying about the ability of the vaccine to prevent transmission and to prevent infection. He got the vaccine and he immediately got COVID-19, and then he got a pulmonary infarction. He was lying about the origins from day one. Why was he lying? Because he funded those studies at the Wuhan lab.
Yeah, he funded those studies. In other words, we funded those studies. That's the reason why we need to hold Dr. Fauci accountable. One more on the Iran situation.
President Trump has now been presented a new option for 10 to 14 more days of strikes against Iran, according to the Wall Street Journal, that would aim to destroy Iran's missile capabilities again and break a cycle of just retaliatory strikes.
It's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. The risk is not to do it, but they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour. And all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn.
This go big approach, which is among a series of options, would reduce the need for the U.S. to use defensive munitions because Iran would have less capability to attack.
So there you have it. The president saying he's going to hit him and hit him hard. And definitely needs to hit them hard and make sure that this all stops, if you will. By the way, Senator Hawley announced today that he's going to introduce legislation to make sure that federal bureaucrats cannot make money while they're on the job. He'll call it the Fauci provision.
What needs to happen before we can move on from Fauci?
We need to get the truth. We need to get the truth. And we need to listen, I'm a huge believer in sunshine and truth and getting all of it out there, transparency. And nothing screams dishonesty than taking the Fifth Amendment when you're not even entitled to it. We need to get the truth so that we can make sure this never happens again. And tomorrow I will introduce legislation to bar all federal employees from soliciting cash prizes or taking cash prizes while they are in office. The idea that this man would get rich, his own secretary wrote him after he got the $900,000 award, says, congratulations, you're rich. Of course, she had to help him apply for it. She had to go out and solicit it. We should make that absolutely illegal. I believe it already is. Soliciting it already is under federal law. We should do a blanket ban that no federal bureaucrat can accept cash money while they are on the job. If that passes, maybe something good will come out of this yet. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Let's go to AJ in Caldwell at 580 KIDO with Kevin Miller. Hello, AJ.
Hey, Kevin, you're doing a great job as usual. Fauci was a 10% owner of the research of the coronavirus, and people haven't been bringing that up. Every time that he would be able to promote the fact that you need to get the jab, he's getting money for it. Maybe little, maybe a lot, but my guess is he's probably got quite a bit from it. And we, for whatever reason, we're not bringing that up enough because that shows the decided interest that he would have in this to make certain that this whole thing rolls out the way he would like it to go. That it was important. You had to do it. Well, when it becomes mandated, it doesn't matter. And that's exactly what happened. The guy's a dirtbag, and I hope the states are able to bring some sort of prosecution against him, because the guy is just over the top, just a derelict in his duties, that's for sure, for the American people. Regarding Iran, God, what President Trump is doing, he's the most consequential president I've ever seen in my lifetime, even over Reagan, I believe, because he just does so much. He gets things done, even though he's just being bombarded with legal options and challenges against him. Yeah, Reagan had Iran-Contra, but, I mean, what Trump is going through, taking a misdemeanor, making it 34 felonies, and all of these women coming out of the closet saying, oh, yeah, he did this, he did that. Well, okay, whatever you say. And it's really, it's disgusting what's going on. And, man, I don't know how Democrats can even hold their head up. I really don't. I don't see how they can do it.
We will see how it plays out, won't we?
Yeah, unfortunately. Hopefully it'll come out the way we want it.
It would be nice. It would be nice if we have the Democrats actually being honest, wouldn't it?
Oh, I think that's a ship that sailed a long time ago. These people, the only thing they want is power. And they'll take any pathway they can get that will get them that power to be able to control this country and turn it into at least a socialistic country. And then, hey, after that, socialism is like just the first step for iron-fisted communism. That's all it takes. And look at Europe. Look what they've become with all of the infiltration of people from other countries. I've heard people have been back to Britain 2 or 3 times, and they said it doesn't even look like what it was before. It's the whole makeup of it, and no more quaint little shops to go into, none of it. It's a new country. A lot of people complain about it.
AJ, we're not going to complain about you. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Let's go to Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, Idaho, with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Mark, how are you holding up with the air?
Oh, I don't know. I had to go and do some yard work out in the front subdivision yesterday, so I didn't wear a mask. But, yeah, I try not to exert myself at stuff that needed to be done. After listening once again to KIDO and the Kevin Miller Show, very own village idiot, Libertard Steve, and his remarks on COVID and all that, he said he had it twice, didn't he? He got COVID twice, right? He said that just earlier. Do you recall that?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Do you recall it? You got it. You should go back in the archives and dig up where he came on air on KIDO numerous times and said, don't worry about it. Get the shot and just shut up. I remember that. A lot of your listeners here at KIDO, I'm sure, will recall Libtard Steve telling us we should all go get the jab. It's nothing to worry about. It'll be fine. You'll be fine. And yada, yada, yada. Yeah, Libtard Steve. I think, let's see, was it last week we were hearing that we were all supposed to go down and hide in caves or something because the aliens were going to come or something like that? I really think, Liberal Steve, that obviously the shots didn't do anything for you. It didn't help you. If anything, besides the pot smoking, it made you worse than the red diaper doper baby that you've always been. And it cut off some of that brain flow even further to that minuscule mind that you have left after smoking all the dope over the years. So just something to chew on there, Libtard Steve. And Fauci, it isn't just me who said the other day about him being the modern-day Joseph Mengele. Anna Paulina Luda has said the same thing. Other people in the House Senate has called him today's modern Dr. Joseph Mengele. That, pardon my French, that SOB has been involved, and you and I are big animal lovers, Kevin.
We are.
And with beagles, experiments on beagles with labs that he has been involved with, but it's not just beagles, it's other dogs and animals, and it's disgusting. This guy is absolutely a filthy creature of the Almighty, whoever put him here on Earth. I mean, he is disgusting. He really needs to go. He needs to go out the back door of life. So, I'd rather take a guy like the warmonger Lindsey Graham and have him still walk this earth than a creature like Fauci. So that's pretty much all I have to say today here at KIDO. Kevin, you have a great day.
Thank you, Mark. More coming up next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. KIDO and the president getting ready to lay the smackdown on a variety of people concerning the Iranian situation. Locally, we have Banana Ball coming to Boise. Pretty big move. ESPN will cover it. And I just saw something else here involving Boise State, possibly the last big game, unless they win the Pac-12. They open up with Oregon, and that will be at Autzen, and it will be on CBS. So we'll see a little bit about that, where you have a lot of revenue being churned up here with the Savannah Bananas. Of course, I wish the air were a little better. And the uniform patches, Ohio State, Notre Dame, the Big 12, putting patches on. So who's it going to be? We'll take a look at that as well. Take a look at that when we're, when you go to our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com, or if you're a member of the Appy App Club, you'll get that. So we have Dr. Fauci, we have the war continuing, and then we have locally that the governor has declared the state of Idaho a disaster area. Really? Congratulations. Yes, we live in a disaster area. Before we get to that, I do want to thank everyone involved with fighting fires. And I know there are a lot of people that are hidden heroes. Hidden heroes meaning people who go to work, obey the laws, raise their families, do all the right things. And they don't get a lot of recognition for it. Yeah, a person who really brought that to our attention, a person who left no one behind, including yours truly, would be our beloved friend, the Reverend Bill Roscoe of the Boise Rescue Mission, that this is his last week on the job. And I can remember when a few years ago we had, I announced 30 years in talk radio. We're like a month away from, 3 weeks away from 17 years in Boise. And, not one person really acknowledged that except Reverend Bill and the Boise Rescue Mission. They created a little plaque. Our friend Lonnie, who worked so hard for Camp Rainbow Gold, showed up. And it's those little gestures that make a difference. So for those of you that have been donating, organizing donations to firefighters, and to me, I don't really understand it, that we live in a world where we have volunteer firefighters, professional firefighters, everybody fighting fires, and we have to have nonprofit charitable drives to make sure they have sunscreen. Our friend Dylan, who has a family member that works for the feds, they actually have to pay for their own hotel rooms and their own per diems, if you will. We can send money to all these foreign countries, these foreign places, and we can't take care of our own. It's sad, man. It's very sad. Here we have the governor declaring a wildfire disaster emergency, deploying the Idaho National Guard to assist fighting the big grass fire along our border. We'll talk more about that. Owyhee County, boundary counties, they're in it, if you will. But I want to acknowledge people that maybe they get time off from work, maybe they don't. Maybe they work their job for some godless corporation, and then not only after they work their job, they perhaps get a chance to take a shower. Maybe they're a little long in the tooth. Maybe they're young, and they go fight fires. Thank you. And a lot of us see our local fire department at the grocery store all the time, right? But now is the time where we thank God that we have firefighters. And those people that are organizing the fundraisers. And by the way, big towns, small towns, thank you. It's not like the economy is booming. It's not like we're in Chicago celebrating the Big Ten football conference media days where they have more money than they know what to do with. We're here on the edge. We're the tip of the spear. So thank you. And if I'm the only person that says thank you, I'm not positioning for anything. I've got nothing to gain except an acknowledgement of the real hidden heroes. We'll tell you about the state of emergency in a minute. Is it truly a disaster? Have you tried to breathe lately? 580 KIDO traffic. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic looking good on the freeway eastbound out of Canyon County into Ada County. Do have an accident finishing cleanup at Caldwell Boulevard and Middleton Road, and construction continues up near Avamore on 55. Vincent Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Now in Cuna and online at vincentlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
You know, by the way, another hour of the program coming up, live phone-in calls, Fauci, Iran, and, of course, fires. The emergency declaration by the governor applies to Owyhee and Boundary counties, as well as other areas under the Idaho Department of Land's jurisdiction. The fire has burned over 301,000 acres and threatened residential structures, prompting a full suppression strategy to protect communities and resources. Go, 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 right? And once again, thank you to the Guard. Maybe your vacation got canceled. Maybe you were actually going to get to go on vacation and get a break from the insanity. But duty calls and you are not slow. The Guard is preparing to provide critical support, including aircraft, pilots, crews to aid in firefighting efforts. The governor's office announced the disaster declaration after Democratic legislators urged him to activate the National Guard to protect the community of Silver City. Democratic legislators? I'm sure, do we have to, talk about partisanship here? There's no one knows more about lands than Governor Little. I'm sure he didn't need the loons to tell him what to do. More coming up next. Again, keep it here for the very latest. Do want to thank Mark, AJ, Concern, LS, and Sherry for getting us through last hour. Winter World Boise, thank you. WinterWorldBoise.com sponsoring this portion of the program. Stay with us, everybody. 580 KIDO. Thank you all for joining us. We are continuing to react to Ouchie Fauci. The liberals, they are protecting Fauci. How in the world can you protect Mr. Fauci? And if you're truly, truly, truly innocent, why in the world would you plead the fifth? A lot of people want to know that. Senator Paul decided to talk to Griff Jenkins on the Fox News channel at 580 KIDO.
If you're pardoned, can you really claim the Fifth? The Fifth Amendment is to claim immunity from self-incrimination. But if you've already been given immunity, you can't self-incriminate unless you lie. So the only way he could incriminate himself today was if he lied. For example, if I ask him, did you delete 5,000 records during your tenure? Did you have your assistant delete these emails? If he says yes, even though it's a crime, he's admitting to a crime he's been pardoned for. So he wouldn't have any immunity. I don't know how you plead the Fifth Amendment to something you've already been granted.
All right, Dr. Livingston, please don't call my cell phone. A lot of people do that. They have my cell phone, and it is unfortunately linked to my audio setup here. So we apologize for that. We did really want to give you that sound, if you will. So once again, the phone number, like I said, it's not a talk show. This is an old shoe. The phone number here is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And it was very serendipitous because I was hoping Dr. Livingston was okay. Let's go to Jared Halpern, who joins us now on Fox News Radio 580 KIDO. Jared, every time I see the president speaking, I think of you, of course, our old colleague John Decker, and just so many people there. And I have to fight something, sir, so please forgive me. I really want to take a picture of you and put it on social media, but that might be crossing a line saying, there he is, Jared Halpern. You hear him on the radio. Here he is. Again, this is what happens when
it's on TV. That's fine. I mean,
okay.
People see it. I get text messages from my wife. My tie's not straight, so people see it.
Well, where do we begin with the president? And he's making a lot of statements about Iran.
Yeah, I mean, and some of them are kind of mixed signals, right? Because yesterday, President Trump said that there was going to be a response to the ballistic missiles that were fired at U.S. troops in Jordan. We saw that response last night, U.S. conducting more airstrikes, a pretty significant series of airstrikes, actually, more comprehensive than we had seen over the last couple of weeks, certainly putting an end to this multi-day pause in the airstrikes. But at the same time, the president also continuing to say that Iran wants to make a deal is possible. We'll see if that happens, but not really rushing that plan. So for the time being, it appears to almost be a status quo. I think the bigger question is the emergence now of some of these Iranian-backed terror groups, these Iranian-backed proxies in the Middle East. Obviously, the Houthis have fired at vessels in different coasts. There was a drone strike on a vessel moored in Egypt, in an Egyptian port. You have seen the U.S. now join Saudi Arabia in targeting some of these Iranian-backed groups in Iraq and other places. And so that's the question now, is whether or not this war expands beyond the borders of Iran as we see some of these proxy groups start to ratchet up their attacks.
Yeah, and again, the president continues to want to make a deal. That just doesn't seem to be happening. And then obviously we have
I think part of that reason, too, and the president alluded to this yesterday, is that there are still differing factions kind of within Iranian leadership, right? You have, it would appear, a group within Iran that wants to make a deal, wants to come to a resolution. You have more hardliners who don't. And it seems like there are kind of different people calling the shots on any given day. At least that's the sense you get talking not just to the president, but to some other administration officials here.
And obviously, Dr. Fauci. Wow.
Yeah, listen, I don't think that was a big surprise. I'm not sure what we were going to learn from this hearing anyway. Obviously, Democrats are accusing Republicans of kind of making a show out of this, trying to make a villain out of Dr. Fauci and kind of the response to COVID in the early part of the pandemic. Fauci obviously concerned about Republicans trying to get him to say something that would trigger some sort of investigation, some sort of criminal charges. The Republicans say that that's not true. He's got this pardon and that should compel him to talk. Obviously, there will be a contempt of Congress resolution. That's unlikely to get passed because it would need support in the Senate. But the House certainly could refer to the Justice Department a referral for criminal contempt. That those have been pursued in the past. We certainly saw it in the aftermath of the January 6th investigation. I actually covered the trial of Roger Clemens more than a decade ago, where he was put on trial for lying to Congress. He was acquitted by a jury. So they're hard to prove sometimes, but I imagine we will see now the Justice Department put out some sort of explanation for a decision it ultimately makes.
Jared, what should we be looking out for since we had the drama yesterday?
Yeah, I think today, obviously, there's going to be questions about Iran still. The president is also unveiling this new plan to hire more veterans into truck driving positions. Recall that the administration is clamping down on people in the country illegally having these commercial driver's licenses. That has raised concerns about whether or not there would be enough truck drivers for the amount of goods that need to be shipped across the country. So this is a way to bolster that employment, bolster that industry, while also maintaining that immigration component that the Trump administration is moving forward with.
Do you have time for one more quick one?
quick one, yeah, and then I got to run.
Midterms.
They're trending for Democrats, certainly on paper. We're seeing that in polling. There are still some primaries to be contested that could bear out some challenges for Democrats. I'm looking at that primary next week in Michigan in that Senate race. But listen, when the president's approval ratings are where they are right now, it is going to be tough for the party in power to win a midterm. There are still a few months between now and then. We'll see if things turn around. And obviously, in some of these seats, the ascendancy of the Democratic Socialists will play a role as well. But right now, I mean, all advantages seem to point towards the Democrats.
Jared, I know you got to run. Thank you, sir.
Sure thing.
Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Lucille, who joins us now on 580 KIDO. Lucille, hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, dear. How are you?
Not bad, just struggling with the air.
Oh, I know. Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's fog. It's not smoke anymore. It's turning into fog. You can taste it when you go out.
Yeah, so bad.
Anyway, I can also taste Fauci's guilt as everybody else. And my contention is, remember how he said that all his findings, that they were all based on science. Remember that?
Trust the science.
Trust the science. In Fauci, we trust. And now he's pleading the fifth. Why? If he's innocent, what is he afraid of? The fifth is to among other things, to defend you from self-incrimination. Self-incrimination, which means intentional or unintentional act of providing information that said you were a criminal or involved in some sort of crime. But he didn't, because he swears up and down that he's innocent, that all his findings were based strictly on science. So why doesn't he just answer the questions and keep repeating that? What is he afraid of? If he is truly innocent, if he's a scientist of the first order, then what is he afraid of? Why does he have to plead the fifth?
I would agree. And he's such a tough guy.
He's a coward. He's a yellow belly coward. That's what he is. He went from in Fauci we trust to jail the bastard. And that's what he's afraid of. And of course, all the Democrats are defending him because they're all complicit. You know, they were all his accomplices. Oh, yes, in Fauci we trust, and this and that and the other. So it's all CYA, Kevin. It's just nothing to do. He is as guilty as Cain. But now he doesn't want to go to prison because, come on, he's, up there with Galileo and all the other scientists. And so now he's pleading he doesn't want to self-incriminate himself. Well, if he didn't commit a crime, how can you self-incriminate? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that all the in-house lawyers are going to fight me and tell me how stupid I am and all that sort of thing. But don't you think I have a point?
No, I would agree with you. The truth shall set you free, and not one Democrat outside of John Fetterman held this guy accountable.
Exactly. That's what he is afraid of, being held accountable. That is the liberals. I'm not going to call them liberals. That is the leftist bogeyman, because they know they have a lot to answer for. And so they are terrified of anybody wanting to hold them accountable. And yes, COVID was a disaster, not only because of the disease, but because of the stupid, unconscionable way it was handled, which is now surfacing all over the world. And that is, if I were there, I would say, if you are innocent and you say you were based strictly on science, what the devil are you so afraid? Just tell us again how you were based on science, how everything was scientific, and how wonderful you are. Just tell us. We're giving you the chance. Why are you hiding behind the Fifth Amendment? I don't know, Kevin. I smell a rat. Several. And I think that I really think this man is guilty as Cain. He is arrogant. He is proud, prideful. And remember that pride comes before the fall. Just saying.
I agree, Lucille. Thank you for the call. We go to Double D, David DeHaas. Good morning. You're on 580 KIDO.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning. You know, I think we need to look a little deeper here with Fauci. I interviewed Dr. Judy Mikovits back in 2020, and she worked with Fauci back in the 1980s. Her and her partner discovered the virus for AIDS. Well, Fauci and his partner came in and stopped the printing of that press, which was unethical. And they did that until they got patents and so forth on the drug for AIDS, HIV. And she had nothing really good to say about Fauci during that 2020 interview. And, she wrote 2 books. She wrote The Plague of Corruption and Ending Plague. She laid exactly how the virus was going to work. She was very, very accurate. Interesting enough in that, she says originally she said it was developed in Fort Detrick and eventually moved offshore. Whether it was or not, I don't know. The bigger picture I think here that Congress needs to go after, one, we need to stop putting out these vaccines that have not been proven safe. They're causing lots of harm. I see it here all the time. And we need to investigate when did Bill Gates and Fauci, they were talking about the next pandemic before 2019. When did Pfizer, Moderna, and all the lot, when did they all know this? How did they know this information was going to be accurate? When did they start planning for this? There needs to be more digging on that end, and we need to stop putting out these vaccines. They're still shooting up, young kids with this, and they're not safe. That's been proven. So I think there's a deeper hole we need to dig and find out the truth.
Well, I wonder where the truth is.
There's always a cover-up. And the other question is, why all these biolabs in Ukraine? How are we tied to that? What government agency has got their hands in that? We know that the government's gotten so big and so bloated, and like they say, the deep state, we don't know all the nefarious things that are going on. But it always leads back to some money someplace.
Well, there was a ton of money made off COVID. Fauci made a ton of money off COVID. I mean, you have to be responsible for what you say. What do you make of Fauci just puckering up and being a little sissy boy?
Well, he's guilty. That's why he went and got the pardon. What is he, 85 years old? I mean, he could be in prison for the rest of his life and lose all of his money and go down as a disaster, which he will go down as a disaster he should never have been.
Will the media ever, though, acknowledge just how bad he was?
Not the mainstream media, no, never. They're complicit with it. I mean, look what they did during the pandemic. You guys got distance. You got to shut down your business. We've got to ruin the economy. Look at how many people lost their homes. My good friend died in a hospital down here at St. Al's on a ventilator. Her family couldn't come see her. She died alone. And how many of those happened? There was so many. I mean, we can go on and on, but the damage that was done. And I'm just shocked that Trump is still bragging about how fast he brought that vaccine to market. When did that really? James O'Keefe caught on tape Pfizer head exec saying, "Yeah, we're making new bugs so we can make new vaccines to make more money." I mean, he caught them on tape. 3 years ago? They've already planning that. So what are they planning in 2030? They're already talking about 2030, a new pandemic. What's coming next? Got to keep that immune system
kind of like
where it's at.
Kind of like this program, what's coming next?
Yes, what is coming next with Kevin Miller? It always keeps you on pins and needles, doesn't it?
Well, as long as we're not talking about the fingers in the poop, we'll get along just fine, you and I. I'm still,
that's good for ratings.
I don't think maybe in the 90s. I will tell you that, a lot of people have lives, but you have burned that into my consciousness for quite some time. So whether that's good or bad, we appreciate you, and you're not calling in for the Living Waters, but our friends at Living Waters, sir. So thank you very much.
You have a blessed day.
You as well. Our great friend David DeHaas, Kevin Mill in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Sorry we didn't get to you as fast as we could have. Our great friend Dr. Livingston, probably going to talk about Ohio State anyway. More your reaction concerning Dr. Fauci. And it's the arrogance of Dr. Fauci in his opening statement to say this.
Pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several
days-long transcribed sworn interviews answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, so here we have Dr. Fauci, arrogant Dr. Fauci, who then wusses out and says, I'm going to plead the fifth. I'm going to plead the fifth. Senator Cruz stating basically that Fauci deserves to be in jail. I would agree with that. Why not have a trial? Why not have a trial? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. A trial. So we'll take more of your calls on that one. Also, some local stories. And again, keep everybody involved in firefighting, fire protection, fire safety in the fire zone in your prayers. We're looking at over 300,000 acres already burned, and we haven't gotten to August, if you will. Something to think about. Another issue that is trending nationally, two stories. One involving a veteran filing a $3 million claim suing the Idaho National Guard. See, she says she was allegedly assaulted and detained on her front porch in D.C. I believe the ACLU is backing this one. And there's some disturbing video that has been edited. Anna King claims that guardsmen breached her gate, pinned her to the ground, and handcuffed her tightly, resulting in significant injuries that required surgery. The incident captured in a video released, as we said moments ago, by the ACLU shows King yelling at the guardsmen to stay away as they wrestled her to the ground. You ever notice in these cases, and not to make light of this, that everybody's a tough guy until the Rubicon is crossed, and then the physicality comes in, and then it's no good. The lawsuit alleges that the Idaho National Guard's actions reactivated King's post-traumatic stress disorder and seeks damages under the Federal Tort Claims Act. This lawsuit is one of over 50 filed by the ACLU against federal agents for allegedly brutalizing residents across the United States. Well, isn't that special? Boise Hawks, they've canceled their doubleheader for Friday. Could that threaten? Could that really threaten the Banana Bowl? One more, and we'll reset the deck and give you the latest from Fox News here in a minute. But the Department of Homeland Security issued a statement regarding Jose Alberto Lozano Flores, charged with kidnapping and sexually assaulting a teenager here in Idaho. He was illegally entered the country 3 years ago, was arrested by the Ada County Sheriff's Office, and Star Police. Greg Ferreira. Recently, the DHS has requested Idaho officials not release him, emphasizing the importance of cooperation to prevent criminals from endangering American communities. We shall see how that plays out. And I will get another drink of water. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. 580-KIDO. Sometimes it's not easy being Chuck Schumer. You just want to have a speech, you just want to say things, and you get heckled. Nobody likes to get heckled, especially when you're Big Chuck.
The con stays the same. The presidency is supposed to be a public trust. Trump has turned it into the single most profitable scam of his. Please sit down. Please sit down.
Back genocide. What can be more corrupt than backing genocide? This is part of the same con with you and Trump playing off of each other. Oh, he's worse. Oh, he's worse. You were put on notice in November of 2023 by the Senator.
And then you have the security people waving to get this guy that looks like Bernie Sanders or Larry David out of Chuck Schumer's face.
Constitutional rights and other legal and human rights organizations. Notice on potential legal liability for aiding, abetting, inciting, or conspiring.
When are they going to give this guy the hook? Anyway, we go to Tea Party Robert, who joins us now on 580 KIDO. By the way, I don't know if you were in Vegas, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was announced, just got remarried to her husband, her second husband, his second wife. No, they were divorced before that, and they're enjoying Vegas. Isn't that wonderful? Have you been to Vegas? Are you a craps player, if you will?
You know what I say. What happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas, and so should Marjorie.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty simple, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, are you a roulette guy? What type of guy are you?
I'm the kind of guy who likes to keep his money in his pocket and invest it.
Well, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I know. I'm no fun, right? Well, I got a few things to say.
You know, we build you up, and then it's just like a...
Yeah, I know. I'm just like a fart in a windstorm. What can I tell you? You know, yesterday I received an interesting email from a doctor friend of mine, and I want to read it to you. What he said is, in light of the Fauci hearings, our governor needs to give Ryan Cole a public apology, and the State Board of Medicine needs to reinstate his license without prejudice. The physicians who pushed back against NIH, Big Pharma, and the COVID emergencies suffered professionally and economically, and at the very least, they need to be acknowledged because they were courageous and correct in their scientific assessments and recommendations. You know, Kevin, while everyone is talking about Fauci, I don't hear anyone talking about the many doctors who went against Fauci's recommendations, or the group called the American Frontline Doctors that opposed many of his public health measures recommended by that dummy. You know, it's time for the medical community to become clean and give credit to those who opposed Fauci's recommendations for rejecting the COVID-19 vaccine and telling the truth about how the mask would not protect us, and questioning why standing 6 feet away from someone was going to keep you safe from getting COVID. You know, I also don't hear any apologies coming from the Idaho medical community for their criticism of Dr. Ryan Cole and the ridicule he endured for disagreeing with Idaho's Board of Medicine that agreed that he was unfit for the position on the Central District Health Board because of his controversial comments surrounding COVID, saying that his statements were negatively impacting the health and welfare of patients as well as the public, and said his medical license should be pulled. Cole was in the forefront of going against the recommendations of Fauci and was constantly assaulted by the press with unrelenting negative comments that led to the Washington Medical Commission restricting Cole's medical license in the state of Washington after state regulators concluded that he knowingly shared disinformation about COVID-19. I'd like to know when the medical board in Idaho and Washington are going to publicly apologize to the doctor for their accusations and misleading comments about COVID and Dr. Cole. It's time to fess up, my friends, and the lying has to stop about the number of people who have been harmed by this vaccine that we now know has caused many deaths and physical impairments. So one needs to pay up and compensate those who took Fauci's advice and were vaccinated with a vaccine that never had proper testing. The government approved this vaccine for emergency use authorization and should be responsible for compensating those who have had to deal with all of the problems that come from taking this vaccine. It's time for the government and Big Pharma to admit the error of their ways and help these people who are told to trust the science that caused, in many cases, death, but also dozens of other problems, and they will have to live with this for the rest of their lives. Johnson & Johnson just agreed to a $5 billion settlement for their talcum powder, and the asbestos companies are still paying off billions from the problems with their product. Why should the government be exempt from liability for this COVID vaccine?
I don't think it would be the government. I think it would be Pfizer, and it would be everything else. I think the challenge that you have here, and don't get mad at me, I'm answering your question. I think the challenge that you have is the game is rigged. And you can have people who has the war chest outside of Mr. Musk or Mr. Bezos or whatever to take on the government. Now, whether it's the tobacco settlement or others, you could have this go for 20 or 30 years. And the people that were victims not get anything. They just continue to play the game. And, we've been involved in civil litigation before. It's not the old days of you go in and you get lucky and you go. It's the game is stacked and rigged. And both sides, I would assume, don't want anything detrimental to come out where they could be liable.
Yeah, but Kevin, the cat's out of the bag, okay? We all know that.
Look, where was Donald Trump yesterday condemning Dr. Fauci?
Very good question. Very good question. Yeah. I admonish.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying I'm just looking at the battlefield. The game is rigged because both sides, it could destroy the government. You talk about multi-gazillion-dollar settlements. If all of a sudden the government was responsible and knowingly did this, along with Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, that's not talcum powder, little buddy.
We were okay in paying $5 billion, trillion dollars out to people for the COVID.
Hey,
COVID problem.
Here's one. Hey, here's one. Here's another good one. Why don't we sue the Chinese? Oh, you go back to, and you're very familiar with this. You go back to what happened at World War II. We could sue the Germans, but we signed a deal where we couldn't hold the Japanese accountable. We couldn't sue them because our government cut a deal with them. You don't think that, okay, here's one. Let's say you and I were going to redo a civil action. We're going to redo the Rainmaker, and you and I are attorneys. And we have, a mystery benefactor. And we're going to go and we get into Wuhan, we get the information, we tell everybody, and guess what happens? You go off a cliff and I mysteriously fall off of the elliptical machine. Oh, just a natural occurrence like poor Andrew Breitbart. There are sinister forces at work here, bro.
Oh, I believe that 100%. But why do we have something like VARS, which is supposed to compensate people who are harmed by vaccines? No, they don't want to even talk about it. I mean, literally, there are people who are dead because of this dumb vaccine, and Pfizer they're not going to take responsibility. They're exempted. They got that exemption years ago, so they would produce vaccines. So what do? They produce one that kills people and maims people. Excuse me, there's something wrong here, and it needs to be addressed.
I do agree with you, and like I said, and you and I have talked about this off the record a lot. You got to be careful what you do around here, partner.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to hear the apologies from the medical establishment, including that clown Pate, who made $8 million one year and was the head of St. Luke's and criticized Cole for his comments. All these do-gooders and all these hoi polloi, need to take stock of themselves and understand what they did during this pandemic and hope the hell it never happens again.
Tea Party Bob, thank you for the call. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
We go now to Ron Grant, who joins us now on 580 KIDO. And I don't know if we've been here before, but it seems like it. Good morning, Ron.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Good morning, buddy. How you doing today?
Not bad, except I don't know about you, Ron. What do you make of the smoke, bro?
Oh, man. Yeah, I flew in yesterday, and I'll tell you, coming in, it was so thick and bad. I cut it with a butcher knife. But, yeah, it's nicer today, though. It's nice. It's going to be warm, but I don't see as much smoke or smell as much smoke. So
let's hope not. When it comes to money and our retirement, we don't want to hope. We want to be prepared. And, Ron, that's where you come in when we're talking about retirement percentages and just about everything else that matters for safety and stability and that mailbox money.
It's important to have mailbox money. I coined that phrase over 17 years ago, where you can go to your mailbox, pick up a check for the rest of your natural life. If you're married, when you pass away, your spouse gets that check for the rest of their life. And when they pass away, whatever's left goes to the beneficiary. And, of course, traditional retirement plans, 401ks, IRAs, et cetera, can't really say that. The brokers like to talk about that 4% market withdrawal rule that you can live off of. First of all, what if 4% is not enough for you to live off of your money? And what happens if you have a downturn in the market? Number one, it's highly exposed to market volatility, that 4% rule. Income is at risk during downturns. And then you got to sell assets to generate income. And what if you have to sell short? Now where's your money at? So my clients and I, we don't like that. We like to have a lifetime income with no downside risk. We get to participate in some of the upside of Wall Street, but never the downside. And you know what? We have that cash coming in on autopilot for the rest of our natural lives. And that's important, Kevin.
Well, it is indeed. Ron, how can people get a hold of you to get that important information, sir?
I've put together a great educational website that they can go on 24/7. Articles to read, videos to take a look at. That's safermoneyspecialist.com. But, let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive. Zero stock market risk. And you know what? Most importantly, Kevin, legacy protection for you and your family. And that's 208-660-1372.
Ron, we always appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Still have time to hear from you. By the way, this is crazy when you're thinking about this. Nearly 3 in 5 voters think Democrats wouldn't do anything on the cost of living. So who's going to save us?
But you know what? I would argue the biggest red flag that Democrats have, the biggest red flag, look at this. It's apathy, not believing that Democrats can change anything. Because the impacts of Democratic policies on your cost of living, only 41% say help, hurt, or wouldn't change it. The clear majority, nearly 3 in 5, 59%. So, look, these are all the red flags. If, in fact, Democrats can't take back control of either the House and or the Senate, and if Trump can stop them, this is what's going on.
Wow. We go to firefighter Dylan with Kevin Miller on 580 KIDO.
Oh, Kevin, good morning. Goodness, I really appreciate that note that Tea Party Bob shared from his friend, because there is no greater opportunity in the state of Idaho right now to show that there might be some actual consideration, or that, hey, we made a mistake. Nobody can speak to Fauci. Is he going to jail? Should we get millions of bucks? The governor of Idaho right now, knowing that he made some pretty freaking big mistakes throughout all this, and, nobody's perfect, but Dr. Ryan Cole lost his livelihood. The Idaho system tends to scrub people in opposition. And Dr. Ryan Cole has an opportunity to come out the state of Idaho does have an opportunity to come out and egregiously apologize to Ryan Cole. He is another person that.
I don't know if he's even around anymore. Is Dr. Cole around anymore?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember during the primary.
Well, he was going to run against the governor, and then he never did that.
Right. He came out and said, if you don't get this Medical Freedom Act, whatever it is in the state, I don't remember exactly, if you don't get this passed, I will primary you. And, well, it passed. I think he deserves an apology. That's all. I don't know if he.
Well, I mean, and here's the latest from Dr. Cole from the Idaho Capital Sun. He was reappointed by the Ada County Board of Commissioners. That puts him on Central Health Board for a term that ends in 2031.
Yeah, it's bottom line. Everybody makes a mistake. It's how we resolve them that makes us the people who we are. And that was a huge mistake. And, Idaho in their senior leadership has a history of scrubbing people out of existence. And, maybe even if you're strategically up there, you're like, hey, maybe here's a chance for us to show that we're not just all corrupt. But, thanks for reading that, Tea Party Bob.
I think, here's the headline. Vaccine skeptic Dr. Ryan Cole to stay on board of Idaho's largest public health district. Pathologist confirmation to Central District Health Board came after the Ada County Board of Commissioners unanimously voted to appoint him.
I mean, he's a patriot. After he got just totally destroyed, he personally went to many different counties or any county to welcome him. For his perspective, he met with Boise County. He took it upon his own personal accord, his own dollar, to go and counsel counties that apparently didn't trust our state government for obvious and good reasons. You think about all the people that got. We have a pastor that went to jail in Idaho for doing sermons in a parking lot. I mean, seriously. Well,
I mean, you're not telling me anything I don't know. We had Dr. Cole on, and then Dr. Cole decided to become political and gave us the ghost. We covered the pastor thing. I worked 8 days a week during COVID, so I get it. I also get that, as I said before, when Dr. Cole entered the public arena, and Dr. Cole, courageous guy, but I said they were going to strike back. And it was when he got involved with the Idaho Freedom Foundation and they made his issue their issue and their issue his issue that all of a sudden the trouble started happening for him. Now, again, I don't know if there's a relationship there, but that's how I remember it. And like I said, I can only judge people on their availability. I went to Dr. Cole's clinic a few times. And then all of a sudden, got involved with the Freedom Foundation, never heard from him again. So that's my experience, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, did he get into mental health? Is that why you were going to the clinic? Was there a different clinic?
Well, I would expect that from Tea Party Bob, not you. But, if that makes – and by the way, folks, we'll just say this about Dylan. If that makes you feel better to belittle me and my diminished mental capabilities, then okay. Ha, ha, ha. Goody, goody, goody gumdrops.
That's actually appreciating for your wit, because at the lunch table you would have melted me down, and surprisingly didn't on the radio because you're a good man, Kevin Miller.
I have a soft spot for you. You always get me in trouble, but I always have a soft spot for you.
Well, you keep at it every day. 580 KIDO.
We appreciate that. But I was thinking of you, your thoughts on the fires, and obviously this hits very close to home to you, sir.
Yeah, so lived it. The biggest thing that's happening right now is you'll notice the news flashes of FEMA not supporting Oregon. If you really dig into why that's happening, it's because the Trump administration had come out and said, if you as a state do not follow these specific guidelines for, and I'm going to be general, but it's guidelines about voter ID and following certain practices for elections, then you will no longer qualify for FEMA. I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't.
And by the way, I don't think Idaho's cooperating with them either. So buckle up.
Well, Idaho didn't share voter registration information, which God bless Phil McGrain for that. That's what a state does, protect its people.
Well, they're going to put him. I hear they're going to put him. They might put him in jail.
I don't know.
Donald Trump. He's going to jail people that don't cooperate. That's what I heard.
Idaho, and it didn't suggest that Idaho didn't meet the qualifications under that.
He's not turning over the stuff, dude. They want the voter rolls. They want everything.
That's a separate issue. I mean, why not share them with the federal government? The Chinese already has 220 million of our voter registration. What's the, it's not like it's protected now anyways, but thanks to our wonderful IT practices in government. But yes, the FEMA issue, FEMA being used as a leverage tool for elections, I got to say, I think that's pretty poor. I think there's reasons not to put lives at risk. I mean, people don't even realize that at the Claremont fire, and the Claremont fire is still burning today, by the way, lightly. It's almost contained. A 40-acre legacy homestead burnt down. Where's the news? Where is the news on that? Those poor people lost. But, the fires, I mean, that's the greatest terrorist tool known to man. I think a lot of these are started by humans on purpose myself.
Dylan, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, my friend.
More coming up next. Kevin Miller, 580. By the way, a lot of people say, Kevin, I missed the program. We had a couple people emailing me right now. And again, I apologize for multitasking, if you will. However, the easiest way to get this, if you're not familiar with the multiple podcasting platforms, if you are like me and technologically challenged, where I still smack my computer, unfortunately, to try, like when you, in the old days, and you can Google this, old people smacking the TV to get the signal correct. I still do that. I do want to give you the easiest way. So if you're not on Apple, or like our friend Dylan, who's Mr. Spotify, or anybody else, or Google, or what have you, and please don't worry about me. It's just the smoke is just bad for my throat, apparently. You can go to YouTube and you just type in Kevin Miller Show, KIDO, Kevin Miller Show. There's over 625 episodes. And it's just a picture of me. And I know you go, well, I want the video. Look, I don't know about you, but I will get something on YouTube and I will actually just listen to it, unless I'm watching it on TV, because it's weird. I still believe with my heart of hearts that audio in this video era is still the most effective way to communicate. Well, of course you're going to say that. You're on the radio. Yeah. But for me, even if I'm watching a video, I just listen to it. And I'm doing something, whether it's in my car or whether it's on the elliptical or anywhere else, that's what I do. So Dylan is Mr. That's why I love talking to him about the Great Idaho Show, because he'll actually study the software. If you go to Spotify, not Shopify, but if you go there, you can actually, they break it down into segments. I don't think they do that on the YouTube. The thing about the YouTube is there is no music. There are no commercials. There's absolutely just the content. So if you wanted to hear Reverend Bill and Jen Barth from the Boise Rescue Mission, then all you had to do was just go to hour 3 and you just kind of squiggle through it. Use the squibbler. But again, like I said, that is available on YouTube, and we appreciate that. Again, good or bad, we do get the message out, and that's why we urge you to be a part of our App Yap Club. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Don't forget, coming up today, the Clay, Buck, and everybody else. But before that, let's say some prayers for those people right now that are doing and we'll say the thankful job of fighting the fires. The thankful job of going there and trying to save people's homes. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be fearful of losing my home. And unfortunately, obviously, we have to figure out a solution. And this is why we hire the representatives and the senators and the governor to make this happen. I don't know about you, and maybe because I've really never done anything in my life, I don't accept the answer, well, it's just how it is. We're better than that. You're better than that. I'm better than that. Shouldn't we be able to live in this great state without the fear of losing our homes? Forgot to mention Kevin Miller loved you yesterday. I do. I love you. I pray for you. God bless. Keep the faith. Wow. We're locked and loaded. Hang in there, firefighters. God bless.